stuff at my last business, they'll get to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I even with the age gap, I run into some young men that know who I am from YouTube and shit, and that's really cool. Like the other day, I was rapping with a guy in California, and he's just excited to tell me he's going to the like a Lexus high school program, and I'm like, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
You know, because like one of the things that car people do as they age is they say like, you know, dying breed. All these kids care about is iPads, and it's like, no, man. The car kids are out there still. They're just small in numbers, just like us.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away.
No, it changes. It just changes. Right. Like the guys with the screwdrivers.
Bro, imagine if we live long enough to see front engine dragsters come back. Crude 60s front engine dragsters, because it's the cheapest way to go fast, and danger's high.
Yeah. The danger is definitely high. It's terrifying watching those things.
But where else can you get a ride like that?
Nowhere. I mean, you can make a dragster with like some tubes in your garage with any engine.
Right. But you don't have your nuts on the diff.
That's always steered me away a little bit, though, I would say.
Well, right, but
maybe just personally, though. That's a personal issue.
That's why a lot of people have to go faster. Because as you go faster, you're chasing the dragon. But if you have a car that is the dragon, you accept it for what it is.
Do you truly believe that, though? Because you're a salt flat guy. So there's always that next level. I mean, you look at Jessie, right? And she just was chasing that endlessly.
Right, but that wasn't... I don't think she knew what she was chasing. So I've already done, you know... are we doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to not have this, but let me give you a quick intro. So, guys, for people that don't know, Jay, he's been around for as long as I can remember being a car guy. I've seen, you know, Jay tech tip videos from Real Street. I think about Real Street and I think like the Supra. I think like I was talking to Jim about this yesterday. I was like, when I think of Real Street, I think of silver Supra, Real Street sticker on the lip.
Right.
Like that's like the picture in my brain.
Yeah.
And I think about seeing those cars with the gigantic turbo and just being kind of like in awe because it was ahead of its time, but yet it still holds up now, 10 years later, to like that is like the epitome of what could be done still almost. And it's like, I don't know, maybe that's the not right way to intro you, but it's just things that were on my mind when we first started talking about doing this.
No, and you I look back on that car, like over the weekend, someone sent me a 790 at 180 time slip, Jay-Z powered thing.
Yeah.
And in my current knowledge base, I would say like things got half a second in it easy, you know, because it's like it should be easy. Like if you have a good converter, and your program is okay, it should go 750s pretty easy.
Yeah.
But going back to that silver car, you know, that car was owned by a guy named Dave Warren who passed away, but taught me a bunch of stuff as he was dying, because he was dying over a course of a number of years.
Yeah.
And, you know, I sat with him the night before he passed, and I said, hey, man, one day I'm going to be there. Like, what do I need to know? And it was really an interesting conversation, you know, but the car, go back to the car, it was fun to have access to, you know, an 8685 Precision and nitrous and a Turbo 400 and a Motec box, you know, because I was messing with other brands back then still.
Yeah.
And when you mess with other brands, you end up with a kind of a salad bar that you're trying to make fine dining out of.
Is this like 2012, 13-ish?
Yeah, it's not that the menu's bad, but if you're going to do fine dining, you have to have the right ingredients. And the Motec is just one of the ingredients. It just is.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was pretty cool because Dave had already put the Motec on the car before Gio bought it.
Is that just like a gold box at the time, too?
Yeah. Okay. But it has, you know, a gold box at the time, is aside from it's got pretty crude idle control, really holds its own to most modern stuff, and that was a 2001 product.
Yeah.
So it was a real motorsports grade component compared to most things were built off of knowing the market they were trying to sell into and the price point they must have met and the marketing budget that they were going to spend to get there. Well, Motec really never had a marketing budget. They just
don't.
had,
They still don't.
right, the product is the product.
Yeah, you never you won't see Motec signs ananywhere really, or stickers on cars.
But when you get people to convert, they're like, "Oh man, this is really good," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, it's really because I remember I was coming home one night and I got home. My wife was like, "What are you pissed off about?" I'm like, "Man, I got these cars that they can't be fixed, and the ECU company is telling me a year now." She said, she was in the restaurant business, so she said, "It sounds like you're trying to run a restaurant buying bad fish." And she goes, "You never complain about the Motec. Why don't you just work on the Motec?" And I was like, "Oh, never thought of that." So I just stopped messing with other stuff.
Yeah.
And the other day I went back and I helped my buddy Mark Mazurowski with his R32 in a Haltech box, and I'm like, "Man, these guys have come a long way." It was pretty cool.
That's crazy. You're saying that though.
Right.
Talking about something from 10 years ago and now still comparing it to modern stuff, saying, "Oh, they've almost caught up."
Well, no, they'll never catch up.
Really?
No, they can't because there's not enough.
You sound like Brett.
No, you have to have the margin to have the staff to have the product, and a lot of the stuff, the price point is too low that you're never going to have 60 badass dudes at the same place. 60 badass dudes. You're never going to have that.
Really?
You just can't because you can't afford it. Because you don't have the price point on the front end. You know what I mean? I think dining is probably, I could just use the dining analogy over and over again, because when you go to a place to buy a $100 steak, you're going to get a $100 steak. When you go to a place that's got a $14 steak, you can't complain. You bought a $14 steak.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's some badass companies like Fuel Tech, with the problem that Fuel Tech solved for so many racers in South America. There's so much to be proud of.
Yeah.
So much to be proud of. Those guys kick ass. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And you could always, on Fuel Tech's side, the usability, the customer service, and the plug and play.
Sure.
You can always take the market share by using that stuff, because I think plug and play is part of the biggest crutch of everybody's struggle. It always has been. I mean, it's
no, Motec, you're buying wiring. You have to find a wiring guy that knows how to do it right, and you pay him to do it, and you get it. But
and
they don't have
hope.
Well, now they do have
right.
some plug-in applications for later model vehicles. Like if you had a GT350 Mustang or a Lamborghini, the Lamborghini coverage is incredible.
Like the V10 stuff.
Yeah, but regular stuff, hey, I'm gonna put a LS1 in my thing. Like Doug's car, that's a wiring harness job. Brett's car's a wiring harness job. My Mustang is a wiring harness job. My Supra, plug in some stuff.
And there's levels to wiring harness as well, which gets if people have never dealt with the levels to wiring harness, you're like, wait, that's a $300 connector.
Well, if you think about paint, most people that ever had a car painted, they show up to the paint shop and they say, "Give me a factory quality paint job." Well, they don't understand what that means. A factory paint job was applied on a body that had never been dinged or pinged or banged or rusted, and just to get back to a factory quality paint job is a bunch of money. So when people say, "Hey man, it costs $60,000 to wire a trophy truck just to wire it," you're like, "What?" It's like, well, yeah, that's what it costs. That's what they pay. There's more money in wiring in my Mustang than the Mustang costs new, and that's the dumb reality of the games we play. Yeah,
we are dumb for sure.
Well,
a little bit in the car world, you have to be a little bit on that level on the spectrum, just a smidge.
But if you think about the men and women that are involved in this industry, what else were they gonna do? Just like if you went to a bull rider or a motorcycle racer or pick any one hobby doesn't even matter what a guy that fishes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other day I was at a gas station and a guy said, "Man, that's a really nice Mustang," and he had a 48-foot. I'm sorry, I botched the name every time. It's this center console with 4 engines on the back, and it's just like it's a multi-million-dollar boat. And
like a yellowfin or like a
no,
buddy.
it's a Grayman or I don't know, man. He called me poor from like half a mile away. It was incredible. The thing was just incredible. Yeah, but it's just what you're into, you know. So you meet these kids and they're into cars, and it's just what they're into. So it's dumb, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna sit at home and read books? Probably not. You're gonna like, what are you gonna do? You know, like if you're into woodworking, that's what you're into. It's just what you're into.
Yeah. Well, it's such like a challenge too. Like I talk to people like Jim all the time, and like he needs a challenge. Like the car guys generally need a challenge, or else they're gonna go crazy. And it's the endless outlet of like a billion different things you have to know.
Right.
I constantly read something every day, and I'm like, wow, I feel like an idiot now because I didn't understand this or know this.
I tell you,
especially with like fuel and stuff, like atomization of fuel and like different fuels. That really always blows my mind.
Man, I was in LA the other day, and I stopped at this little, you know, the PCH is just littered with car shows on a Sunday morning, and there's a 190E Benz. And I walked up and I said, "Can I look at the engine?" And the guy opens the hood. I'm looking at the engine. I'm like, "Look at that injector placement." I mean, like they knew that, you know, the most people just put the injector where it could go.
Yeah.
And that car, the injector is where it needed to be. And a lot of stuff, we just do it because someone else does it. You know, like there's the man that started the company ARP. You know, he's quoted saying, like, if you're doing it like everybody else, you're probably doing it wrong. So in our industry, we're guilty of following a lot. And that's why the guys that don't follow are the outliers that are probably getting a little bit extra out of their experience.
Yeah. That's actually something I was thinking about earlier was, you know, there's like the thing that works, but then there's like the crazy guy that has to try something different to get that next cutting edge, but then you look crazy because you're always crazy until it works.
Well, you go out to Bonneville and you speak with a man who has experience with different types of rocket fuel. And you think that we primarily use gasoline, ethanol, and methanol. Mm-hmm. The people that use nitromethane don't really talk about it, but it's happening. But we haven't messed with xylene. There's about 5 things that if somebody wanted to get dangerous, the product's already out on the market. If you look at 80s Formula One fuel, it was mostly toluene. It was like 80% toluene, 20% methanol, and they had to heat it to get it to light, but you wouldn't detonate.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
Toluene.
Yeah, it's like you can buy toluene right now. There's toluene mixed in a couple aftermarket fuels.
I guess I don't really have much of a concept of like...
Right, but this is we do what everyone else does.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Well, fuel, also, I can just get E85 from a barrel, nice and easy. I don't have to think about it too much. Like,
yep. No, there's a certain amount of convenience that travels with ignorance, and it works.
Yes.
And that's okay. Because you already have your hands full, right? If you're trying to play with your car and there's a budget and there's multiple technicians and multiple technical resources it takes just to get to the track, and then you're at the track and it's hot. There's enough going on that you probably don't have time to experiment with things like fuel. Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's out there.
And what are you in it for? Are you in drag racing because you like to go out and hang out with your friends and, you know, let go of the button a little bit? Or are you trying to be like pinnacle of the sport?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people need to kind of understand where they're at. Are you pinnacle of the sport, or are you just like, you know, is this your fun hobby that's not going to cost you $100,000 every time you go to the track?
You know, I think that's probably one of the things that made me a pretty bad racer over the years is I could have enough fun doing it around people that I enjoyed that my primary goal wasn't winning. And when Job, Spetter, and Brett, they both want to win. And for me, it's just, I guess I'm much more into the people. The cars and the people are enough for me.
Yeah.
You know, that I was never really super competitive. You know, I could have fun. I could get my fill just off of doing the thing. That, you know, not that losing is fun, but, you know, I wouldn't be driving home kicking rocks about it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like the hobby, the sport is fun. If my car goes an extra 2, maybe 1/10 faster, the joy factor doesn't exponentially raise.
Well, you're chasing the dragon, you know, like we were talking about before with the land speed stuff. You have to know, like, having driven 3 different types of cars out there now, I know which one's the funnest, and it happens to be the least dangerous, and I know which one's the fastest, and it happens to be the most dangerous. But I know that the second time I drove that car wasn't nearly the high the first one was, because I was more aware of the danger because my mind had been through it once. That it wasn't just, you know, a minute of overwhelmed speed after, you know, 2 days of lead up, 2 days of foreplay with this thing, just looking at this thing.
So interesting. So you got more like worrisome the more you did it?
Yeah.
Because drag racing's kind of the opposite. Like, you know, after you do it enough times, you're kind of like a little deaf to it.
Well, you also have to kind of like know what you're getting into. You know, when we started racing the white car, one day we had a fire. And no one knew we had a fire because nobody was there. And I'm at the end of the track and I got a fire. And I missed the seatbelt getting out of the car. So when I went to get out of the car, I didn't unbuckle all the way. And I was like, that could have been a problem. I said it as soon as I went to get out of the car and I knew I missed the belt. I'm like, that could have been a problem.
Yeah.
And then I get back to the pit and the other guys are like, you know, ready to run again. And I said, man, I don't think I want to drive this car anymore because you don't understand the danger. I'm building the engine. I'm tuning the fuel injection. I have to like figure all this other stuff out. Like, Gio, why don't you start driving the car? And Gio was having fun. And then we broke a torque converter just because it had, you know, the products hadn't spent a lot of time over 10,000 RPM and some things were happening. So we broke a torque converter. It was this big flash fire. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then Job was on me pretty hard about like, hey man, you're racing that thing with coolant pressure. And I said, I know, man. It makes some coolant pressure.
So he was part of the program even back then?
Job and I have been friends since it's been like 25 years or something.
I guess I just never made the connection that he was, because, you know, I'm new to hearing the name Job. I didn't realize all the way back then he still like had
Job. I could talk
tangent off completely, but
I could talk about Job for hours. There's not a lot of men like him. He's a different breed.
I would have to agree from my time.
His grandfather's a different breed. They're really incredible men. His brother's different breed. You know, like he's just a high level dude that happens to be madly in love with cars and engines and shit. I mean, the stuff we talk about, you know, like we have a lot of fun talking about cars. Yeah, it's just this thing.
Yeah.
But
I think I remember a video of the car being on fire and you opening the hood for someone to put it out.
Oh no, that was Jared's car.
Oh, okay.
That was Jared's car. That was my fault. That thing was blown up at 1,200 feet, man. I felt it. It was blown up. I knew it was blown up. We were just screwing around. You know, I mean, that was a lot of fun, but we were just screwing around.
Yeah. So Jared's car, the green one,
Yeah.
races.
Yeah.
It raced a lot for a long time. It's kind of like he races a little less now, kind of just like a couple events a year.
Jared's got a lot of cars.
He does.
So he could have like, he's got his thing. I think he probably just sits out in his garage and he's like, I got the list. Yeah.
They're all 90s JDM cars too, for
Yeah.
the most part.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the white car. We was making coolant pressure and Job's like, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, well, he doesn't understand. No one wants to hear the reality of the situation we're in. And Job said, put a poppet in the downpipe. So now when coolant pressure is elevated, it blows into the downpipe and he has to see it. And Gio came back around. In like 2 weeks, we had a converter blow up, a big wheelie, and the head gasket thing. And Gio looked at me and he's like, this is dangerous. And I said, yeah, man. You know, like all those guys that drag race IRS cars and they don't know that OEM component breaks and you drive the thing into the wall. It's a bad idea. Like you should have a solid axle for safety, not because you're trying to get a micro record.
Yeah.
Like when you let go of the button on an IRS car and then you get in the same day, you get in a solid axle car and let go of the button, you're like, it's pretty nice. You know, it's just a different,
Yeah.
it's prepared.
Yeah, like half shafts like that don't really go with drag racing very well.
Right, but the climate we're in order, maybe there was a crossover where instead of feeling accomplished because you did it, you were feeling accomplished because the internet said you did it, and the micro record culture just blew up.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, there was a certain amount of things. You were doing it or not doing it. It wasn't the world's fastest IRS hydraulic camshaft, single turbo, blue license. That just didn't exist because you were either doing it or not doing it. But the internet kind of changed that.
Yeah, I think with like obvious I wasn't around for like the forum boom, but I would imagine the Facebook boom really took the small records to a peak. And even like
Yeah.
I can see it somewhat for like transmission, like, you know, A340 stuff is pretty interesting to see go fast, but then like I just prefer, you know.
Well, I think there's a quote. It's like comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that we're deep in that stage of the game. Because you like build a car because you want to build it, but allow yourself to have fun with what you built. Don't get caught chasing micro records.
Yeah.
Just have fun and don't run the thing so hard that you're willing to break it twice a year and not play with it the other, 330 days.
I know. I talked to Pedro a little bit about that, and I'm like, man, like, I know it feels awesome to go very fast and like keep ringing the car out, and like it's awesome to chase those numbers, but like I'd rather make 150 passes this year at like a 780 than 40 passes this year at like a 740.
Yeah.
It just
No, it's and I think that that's a thing that people do. I mean, I used to blow my Mustang up a lot. It like we would go to the track as kids there was probably a set of Flowmaster mufflers that had, oh man, it must have had 100 spark plug ground straps packed in it, and I don't think we had a fuel pressure gauge. We were just kids. So you go through it, like 225 plate feels pretty good when you let go of the button first time.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Is your early start, and you're obviously a Mustang guy. You still have a Mustang. You started out as a Mustang guy. Where was that? Was that Florida still?
Yeah.
Okay, so always Florida, always OSW, or?
Yeah. Like I was, I've been me the whole time, so I know the inner workings of the whole deal. I was a kid that was mechanically inclined. I liked taking things apart and putting them back together. Mm-hmm. I was a chunky kid. I liked my bicycle. I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. Like I wasn't going to jump into girls. I was into cars. So I probably had 3 or 4 Volkswagen Beetles before I was 15. And then I had a Chevette. I bought a Chevette. A crackhead was painting my Beetle, and the car kind of disappeared, and went to kind of settle up with him, and I got the Chevette. It was all I got. So I walked away with the Chevette, right?
Why was that style of engine setup so intriguing? That's
what?
Well, because a Chevette isn't a far jump from a Volkswagen, right?
Oh, no. It was the only way to get any money back. I think it was like $700, and I got a Chevette instead of $700. It was a crackhead.
Okay.
So I had a Chevette for like a year, which was rear-wheel drive, and it could do burnouts and slide around a grass field and just kind of hoon around. And then I almost bought a Camaro. And a buddy of mine said, like, don't buy a Camaro. It's too heavy. So it was like a 70s, a fairly undesirable car, like a 76 Camaro.
Yeah.
He said, don't buy a Camaro, buy a Mustang. And I'll actually see that dude next week at Speed Week. His name's Lee Adams. But I bought a Mustang, and you start tinkering with it. And back then, it's like get it to go at 13, get it to go at 12, get it to go 11, get it to go at 10. That was fun back then. It didn't take that much money either.
Yeah.
And you had a group of people that all had similar cars, so you were racing your friends and racing with your friends. The game now is way different. Way different.
Yeah, it feels like I'm racing with people just on the internet that are my friends, not as local.
Oh, you got a guy.
Oh,
You got guys like Brett's car. Like if you have to like take the hood off that thing and really get to looking at it, and then you watch it race. Like I wouldn't want to race him. He's probably just gonna beat me. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to race that guy.
I think that's what most people think when they see the green pull into the lane next to them.
Oh man,
damn it!
and he does it with such a beautiful smile. He's so cool about it. He's not, like that's the other thing with car guys. Some of these car guys are pretty rowdy, pretty prickly. Where they got something to prove. Like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I try to learn from those kind of people that are fast like that. Try to get as much knowledge. But like people like Brett, not the prickly guys.
Yeah. No.
And I wouldn't blame Brett if he didn't teach because the knowledge was expensive to get.
Yeah.
And that's part of the other thing is like people are protective of their knowledge because it costs them a lot of money to get there.
I think one of the things that really helped me humble out was working in the islands and working in Mexico, where if you broke your car, it may be a year because you had to save up for a year to fix it. And working with those guys, they're the same guys. You just live in a different place in a different economic climate. They're the same guys as you and me. They're just car guys.
Yeah.
When you understood the severity of the financial repercussions of blowing your stuff up, you're just like, man, I really felt like I was doing those guys a good service by teaching them. Mm-hmm. Like just an opportunity to teach people. Don't go this far. Don't go that far. Stay like in here. Everything will be cool. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed that because those guys they're not prickly at all. They're just cool. They just want to play.
That's what I've heard about those. Like I got a buddy that moved to Puerto Rico and he's like, man, it's like a full family at the racetrack. Everyone.
Yeah.
He's like, everybody wants to help everybody out. Yeah. He's like, I left Houston and it was completely different worlds.
No, the Puerto Ricans are a beautiful breed. They're very passionate, intense. But they got 2 racetracks down there and this and that. Like I have a fair share of Puerto Rican friends and they're awesome. They're high test.
Orlando is similar to.
Yeah.
Orlando has a lot of Puerto Ricans in it.
Yeah.
And then you go to South Florida and it's all Cubans.
I tell you, man, I watched this young man ride a motorcycle out at the track. He's a Spanish dude, maybe weighs 100 pounds. And I walk up to the starting line and I study his hand when he leaves the starting line, and I just watch him use the clutch. And I'm like, if you really get an eye on it, you could slow it down. And it's amazing. Like I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like those guys grew up racing. Like the competitive nature is real, and they'll get after it for sure.
So how'd you end up in like the islands helping people there in like Mexico and like, South America at all? I don't know.
Well, at my old place, there were customers, and the customers said like, "Hey, you wanna come down here, and this is what it pays." So going to Grenada was incredible. Going to the Bahamas and Trinidad and Mexico, like it was a really cool adventure. Mm-hmm. But I got to work on cars, and even if I wasn't as good as I was, later, I still offer those guys a tremendous value because I could solve a lot of their problems because I was a mechanic first. So you're a mechanic, then you're working on engines, and then you're working on fuel injection. It gives you like a pretty wide access to
Yeah.
the technology. Versus if you're just a guy that gets into tuning because you want to make $1,000 a day, if you don't know nothing about the engines, you're going to be behind. But you may make a lot of money in the process.
Yeah, most engine builders will tune, from what I've seen. Like Joe at Fast Forward, like he'll tune your nitrous engine. Like he's
If
like
I had
he's a tuner.
Yeah.
Like
but because he did it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That was his life for a
he's
number of
melted
years.
a billion pistons, and he knows what doesn't work and what does.
Now, nitrous guys are a different breed. I straight up don't have any interest in going through all that when I can just have a turbocharger. The turbochargers, that's where it's at for me.
Yeah, I mean,
my kid's Natalie is 6 years old, and she'll tell you turbocharger's where it's at. I mean, I'm really pushing that into her brain. I can't afford to want a supercharger or a nitrous kit or something like that. That'll be terrible. We're sticking to the turbos.
yeah, I unfortunately am turbo and nitrous, which is frustrating at times.
Turbo and nitrous isn't bad, but you've got to know that it's like alcohol. Like, have a drink. Don't have 3.
Yeah.
If you have a turbocharger and you need 100, give it 100. But you try to run 250 on it, you better have your stuff together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's going to be hammering parts out of it. Like those guys that can elongate the small end of a piston pin, the rod.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you keep it rich enough that it doesn't torch, but it can't manage the charge, and you just beat a piston pin out of it, it's like, ugh, no thanks.
Yeah, I try to pull out my engine as little as possible. And I know I've listened to some of your tech tip stuff, and you're on the side of like pull it out frequently and look at it.
Learn about it.
And learn before you are looking at pieces.
Yeah.
Which kind of something that early on resonated with me.
No.
Like, it's a lot easier to figure it out when it's not in pieces.
Yeah. That was a huge luxury for me, to be able to afford to take it apart and look at it. I literally, you learn to see so much. Like the other day, a young man brought me an engine. It's just junk. The whole thing's junk. But it was junk the day he bought it. And the man that made it, he's just trying to make a living. So you're not going to throw him under the bus.
Yeah.
You don't even say nothing what you see. You just move on, right? But it's a multi-stage failure. But I don't have to go through that because I got to learn so much.
Well, sometimes, like with that guy, is it incompetence or is it malice? Because if it's just incompetence, then that you can, that's like he just doesn't know.
Oh,
if it's somebody doing it on purpose, like, you bought valves, but he never put them in, like that should get blasted.
I'll cut a piece off this thing, and one day I'll be in this neighborhood and stop in and say, hey man, like, you can't do this. You can't do it this way. But it's
not everybody should build engines.
No, not everybody should build engines. Unfortunately, there's not enough money in building engines that everybody wants to build engines. It's not the fast money route. There's a lot of liability in engine building. I had over the years, some of my favorites were a remote oil filter hooked up backwards. One dude just last year, the technician grabbed the Toyota oil filter, jammed it on the engine, threaded it on. The plastic was still on the top of the filter. Brand new engine. So I log into the guys from Motec, and it's my engine. He's going to start my engine up with the oil filter blocked. He fires the thing off. I'm just locked on the oil pressure. I say, shut it off. I say, does it have a remote filter? He said, no. I said, the oil's not flowing through the engine. Like, something's wrong. And he takes the filter off, and he's like, oh, my God. And I said, okay. He goes, what should I do? I go, put the filter back on and run it. It's full of assembly lube. But don't forget this day ever happened. Don't call me in a month and tell me that you forgot that you started it up without oil pressure, because I don't want to take that call. So you can either send me the engine back, and I'll go through it at your cost, or you roll your dice. And he rolls his dice, and it works out for him. But, assembly lube is Assembly lube will buy you a lot of time on startup. You know.
Do you use ATF or do you use like actual assembly lube? Because I feel like I've seen the videos and I feel like it looks like ATF almost.
I use ATF. I use probably well, there's 3 different lubricants, and then depending on the camshaft material, there could be 4. But you just use what you're supposed to use where you're supposed to use it. You know, I mean, it's not a universal thing. You need thin stuff that's going to be in places that need to be displaced. You need thick stuff in places that you don't want it displaced. You know.
So where
You
like
want oil where only oil is going to be throughout the life of the engine. You know, if you put an engine together top to bottom with assembly lube, the rings will be junk right off the hit. You know, you've got to put things where they're supposed to be.
So where is this knowledge like coming from? Do you feel that it's like, you know, it's been passed down, and do you feel that it's hitting a wall and less people are absorbing it? Or do you think there's just equally the next generation's moved in to take over?
I think that you have a kind of a multi-tier problem. The majority of guys that know what I know, because I don't think I'm special, I think there's a lot of guys that know what I know. I think that they're making a living and they can't tell you because it takes the food off their table, or they're afraid it takes their food off the table. So they don't tell you.
Yeah.
And then you have guys that their egos are driving them, and you couldn't help them if you tried. They're gonna hit themselves in the head with the same rock every day, doing it their way, and you got to just let them roll. And then there are some young men that are genuinely interested, and I look at them. You know, if someone asks like, "What's that?" and I'm describing what it is, and if I have their attention, to where I know they're listening, I'll teach them whatever they want to know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what do I care? I'm 46 years old. There's more days behind me than ahead. The best thing I could do is teach younger people to not waste a bunch of time screwing up, you know, because I probably screwed up for 10 years. So I would love to teach people, you know.
And you have taught probably more people than most, whether you know, directly or indirectly through videos and content you've created.
Yeah.
You've helped more than most, but I just worry that there's a barrier of like the next generation coming in.
I got them, man. I got the kids. I see the kids. I talk to the kids. It's not going to be a problem, as long as the people that know stuff want to teach stuff. You can't let fear. You know, one of the things they told me when I was a kid, getting in the cars, the old guys, they said it was all gonna go away. I was wasting my time. Well,
25 years ago.
Yeah, it's like, no, man, it's not.
Better now than ever.
Yeah, the moment there were 2 cars on a road, there was a race, and that's just the way it works. You could do if you and I were kids on bicycles, we would see who was faster. We were going to do it. It's written, you know. So there's a lot of young men that want to learn, and I've got some pretty neat ideas, kind of like in play, but they require partners that will have a long view, because the money isn't the primary drive in it, but the money will come because the people that, you know, there's different when you're selling someone something and they don't really want to buy it but they need it. The money is very touchy. You got to pull it out of their hands. But when you're dealing with people that really understand the value of what they're getting, money's easy. It's just numbers. So I think that, you know, I've got a couple things. There's a dude in Georgia I want to go meet with because I think he could help with the kids, you know, because he's got a lot of reach. And I'm going to go sit with him and say, hey, man, what do you think about this idea? But I would love to teach more. That would be pretty cool.
I think that's something where it's fitting for you. I think you have all the criteria of someone that could teach a lot more because you have the knowledge. From what I've seen, you display information well and understandably, and then also you do have notoriety and reach.
Yeah, we my older kid Gia, we left Bonneville, and we're gonna go south to Arizona and we're riding down this road, and off to the right, we're in the middle of nowhere. There's literally wild horses running next to the highway. Nowhere. And we stop at a gas station, and I hit the door, and a guy goes, Jay? And I go, yeah, man. And he goes, oh, man. And we start talking about cars, and he's teaching his son things that he learned through YouTube with me. And we walk out, and my kid's like, oh, who's that dude? I go, I have no idea. We're just two dudes that like cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's cool because that's...
Yeah, there's an instant connection across the world.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a universal language.
When I would work in Mexico, the men had the same exact jokes that we have here. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I was watching it. I'm like, same jokes.
Yeah.
Same exact jokes. We're just car people.
Well, to me, like, I'm a first generation car guy. Like, my dad.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but you could tell.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. When we first saw each other, I was super green behind the ears. I was like 17 years old, never been around cars my whole life. Like, finally started to like actually go around cars because I moved from New York and fishing country to Florida where there's cars, and like seeing videos like what you were doing helps somebody that has no idea what is going on, because not to badmouth my dad, but he's never a car guy. He never cared about anything cars, never touched a engine, couldn't tell you anything about a car.
Yeah.
Didn't have any interest.
My dad wasn't into racing cars, but I think if he could have afforded it, he would have. He started having kids at a young age, but there was always something to fix. So I think I probably put head gaskets on something at 12 or 13 years old. I have no idea how I got the distributor back in. I probably had a manual or something. But I was working on stuff pretty early, because it needed to be done. I mean, my parents had a small business, and there was a lot of trucks, and they were all junk, and you just had to keep junk on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of, that's the breeder of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. The wants and the needs.
Yeah.
So
you have the 200-mile-an-hour hat on.
Yeah.
You've been faster than 200, though, from what I understand. I was wondering what hat you were going to bring with you, because the hats are a cool... It's thing. The endless flex, hat.
And it's not... And this is... I'm glad that you said that, because the other day, David Freiberger was trying to explain El Mirage, and someone said someone said something derogatory, like it's a dumb club with too many rules. And it's like, well, no, the rules are pretty good, real good. And when you meet another man that has a hat, and he's, like there's a guy in my area, there's two guys in my area in Mount Dora that have 200-mile-an-hour club hats. Mm-hmm. And the one man did it with Don Garlitz.
Oh, that's cool.
And he tells the story of what it was like to go to the Salt with Don Garlitz. And Don was an avid drag racer. But when you're on the Salt and the car moves around, Don, he kept getting out of the gas. Something ain't right. Well, there was a ruckus, and another man had to get in the car and prove it was safe. Well, then after that, Don's at 6 miles with the foot on the floor. Now he's experienced what it's like, And you get to hear the story from a guy that's, he's probably 20 years on me. And it's awesome. So it's a club. It's not a so the micro record culture is one thing where I did something in order for me to feel like I did something special. I had to categorize it with all these asterisks. And then the 200-mile-an-hour club's like, oh yeah, you're in it too? Like, awesome. How did you get in?
Yeah.
What was it like? And the men tell you like it happened yesterday. Like, I can tell you what it's like to go 300 miles an hour like it was yesterday. Like, I just got out of the car. It's intense. It's in your head. You can't just shake it off. Drag racing's like, boom, it's over.
Yeah.
Out there, it's like, it's this whole dance of events.
How long does it take? It's what, 300 miles an hour, and how long of a distance?
So,
like, how much time are you?
They clock you
in the gas?
about a minute. They clock you. There's the one, and when you're at the starting line and you look down the course, you can see the one, and you the truck push truck initializes, and you get on the gas, and like nothing happens. And then you go around 100, and things start to roll. And then you're managing some traction, and then you're working to get to the 2.25. So 2.25 miles is a marker. Like you probably need to be going 230, 240 by the 2.25 if you want to get it done by the 4. Because the longer you keep it floored, the more the heat's coming for it. So it's a balance. You're not just moseying off the starting line. You're trying to get it done as fast as you can, because the longer it's floored, the more heat is being soaking into the entire system.
Are you controlling that with your foot, or are you controlling that with the ECU?
Well, now the cars have good enough wheel speed sensors that I can start to use the Motec.
Okay.
But you have to mitigate that too, because you can't just suck all the timing out of it, because you'll overheat the exhaust and have a different problem. So I use the throttle angle a lot. Like I got the 369 Roadster now. The guys are making runs in it, and they just think they're making the best runs of their lives. And the ECU is giving it the boost and the timing and the throttle angle that it needs.
So they think they're like drivers all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm getting the traction right, I'm getting the heat right.
You leave a little slip in it. You can't just get in there and like there's still some action, especially at El Mirage where you're on dirt. The dirt is a whole different thing. The salt can be like a slushy, or it can be like asphalt.
Weird
salt's
to
very
imagine
dynamic.
Dirt, putting down that kind of power on just like dirt.
Oh,
anyways.
man.
It's just a weird thought. Like,
yeah. So there's the 200 mile an hour club, red, 300 mile an hour club, blue, 400 mile an hour club, black. And when you see a dude with a black hat, it's like, man. And then at El Mirage, there's a burgundy hat. It's called the dirty red hat. And if you go 200 at El Mirage, you're getting it.
Okay, so on the dirt is it a next level challenge to do it, or is it next level dangerous? Because like, if you could do it on the salt, that would imply there's a lot of cars that can do it.
Yeah,
but they don't.
It's a different environment. So Bonneville is a 5-mile ride when everything's in good shape. El Mirage is a 1.3 mile dry lake bed.
Oh wow!
When the guys came back from World War II and they were street racing, and the cops said, you can't do that. They found this dry lake bed and started racing on it. And people are still racing on it.
Yeah.
El Mirage, the dust, like when I built the first engine that went to El Mirage, I don't know what the reason why I don't think it blew up, but I was servicing it, and there was all this stuff around the buckets, and I'm like, what is that stuff? And I'm like looking and looking and looking. It's dirt. The dry sump was pulling it past the cam seals and the rear main seal, and it's dirt in the engine.
Oh wow!
And you're like, oh, that's cool, and it's super fine.
Yeah.
Super fine, but it's dirt.
So it's almost like silt, like that.
Yeah,
like
that you could put a dust cloud behind a car that looks like a hydroplane boat.
Oh wow!
It's amazing.
So that was a 2J.
Yeah, 2J.
As well, yeah.
Yeah, I work on so right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, the Roadster, the Alpha, the Datsun, the Liner, 4 2JZ cars that I build the engine and work on the Motec. And then now I'm getting the opportunity to work on the Speed Demon. And the Speed Demon is basically a UFO. The dude that built the Demon just passed. His name was George Petit. Mm-hmm. And George Petit is probably, if you don't know the name, he's a hero to the industry. I mean, if George met you and he believed in you, he would let you build a car like money no object, and then you could use that car to jumpstart your effort. So a lot of the great men that are in the industry right now, they were customers of George's at one point. And George had a killer car collection, and he's got this Speed Demon. The thing's been like 480 miles an hour. Kenny Detwilder builds the engines, and Kenny's been at it. Kenny's like one of the triple OG turbocharged guys in America.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Speed Demon and the car just a little bit. I'm so novice to anything salt flats, and
Yeah.
it's probably because we're so far from it that it's like
Yeah,
a
we gotta
very
play.
foreign thing.
Yeah, if you're, why would you own a boat if you're not near the ocean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even I've never been, obviously, most people know, but
Nah, it's worth going. LA, like you could come out with me. Most like anyone of reasonable character, like come out. Like just you want to go to LA, man. I've been going to LA since I'm 25. I'll take you in and out of LA. We'll go to El Mirage. It's a good time. You know, we cruise the PCH, have breakfast, you know, with our toes in the sand. It's a cool trip.
sounds romantic.
Rule number 1.
Why LA? So why LA? It's so romantic in LA.
Oh no,
But yeah, it's right there.
You get out of LA, but you get to see LA. LA is, I would argue, one of the most beautiful disasters we have in our nation. It's LA. It's Los Angeles. It's the first big West Coast. Well, San Fran maybe, but LA is LA.
Yeah.
LA is like, oof, it's a beautiful disaster.
Yeah, it is crazy. That state is, without a doubt, the most beautiful state in the U.S.
I think a lot of, and I don't want to get into it deep, but if you only watched the internet and television, you would think that California was lost in space. But when you go to LA and you talk to people, you know, I stopped in a mini truck show the other day and just looked at the trucks and rapped with some people. Like, it's all good. You know, people are just peopling.
Yeah.
You know, there's some problems in the management of the state. But there's problems in management in most states. Just they really get it. But it's still California.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Miami and you're like, oh man, what's going on around here?
Yeah. No, it's just where we're at as a
So
society.
how far is it from LA then?
90 miles.
90 miles to get to
Yeah.
the salt,
Yeah.
or to get to
El Mirage.
El Mirage.
It's a beautiful drive too.
Yeah. It to me, I've always felt it was like an older guys club, I guess, and like it was like an older
is.
thing that the younger generation seems to be a little
Well,
lost to, maybe.
so the wisdom that you gain as you age, it comes in over time, right? So if you're a kid, you're just looking for the easy. Give me an easy hit. Give me something to race. Give me, a kid will get on a dirt bike and not think twice.
Yeah.
A grown man's like, man, I'm not trying to go to the hospital, break my back. So it's just like wisdom. So the dudes out there, they know how they can play. They know how long they get to play for. They know that the schedule fits an adult's life. You're going to Bonneville, you're going twice a year, unless you want to go to some of the other sanctioned bodies and test and things like that. But it's a digestible schedule. If you're trying to follow it, if you're a sprint car racer or a lot of other racers, like if you're a small tire racer, you can be racing every weekend. You got to have a lot of cash and a lot of time.
Yep.
Hard on a family, this and that. So those dudes, they are wise. You sit out there, you can walk into most pits and some guy will tell you stuff that you didn't even know you needed to know. I mean, they're just, every single guy is a treasure out there. The people are incredible.
That's been my understanding of it as well, as like the group that it brings out, because it takes that extra level of dedication.
Yeah.
It weeds out a lot of kind of like the nonsense, I guess.
Well,
you
yeah,
could say.
There's no riffraff. There's no catty women. There's no bickering.
Because like the pay to play is higher than other forms of racing, so it kind of draws in.
It's like
It just boils out.
Well, I think in drag racing you may get into some of the, and it's not bad, but you're prone to it. There's going to be some jackass at the party that wants to start a fight, and you may get that at a drag race. But out there, it's like, nah, man, we worked too hard to get here. We don't have no time for that. Just be cool, and everybody's cool.
What's your take on like the piston engine versus like jet stuff? Because that seems like the big distinction there too.
I think that the turbine engines are all you need to know about how incredible a turbine engine is to listen to one start up and move a vehicle. And that should be, I think, for a regular person, enough of a thrill and a warning at the same time. ever want to get into something with a jet engine. Piston engines are plenty for me.
Yeah.
Plenty. So that, you've got to, like when I ran the liner and it went 333 or something, the thing was so out of gear that I had my foot out of the throttle and I was just driving it at 8,500 RPM. And then we have to do the backup run to get a record. Mm-hmm. So we go to run the car again. We're looking at tires are starting to chunk. Well, it's like the safety aspect of the tires chunking is a real problem because some cars will spin and some cars will flip and the liners will pencil roll. And you are for sure getting your eggs scrambled if that thing gets to pencil rolling. So, like the jet car thing, what are you doing trying to go 500 miles an hour? Like, man, that's the safety, the tire thing for me. It's like if I ever start doing some dumb stuff like that, somebody needs to hit me in the head. Like 400, I got a little bit of an itch for 400. Just because I got to like see behind the veil a little bit going 300 and change, but I don't think I'd ever want to go.
What's the record on a piston engine?
The Demon. I think the Demon is, and I'm real
What's
bad.
What's it been though? Yeah, I don't.
480. I'm
okay.
super bad with records because I think they're kind of stupid.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't understand like where like I felt like the piston engine had like more of a ceiling and the jet engine has no ceiling at all.
Yeah, I think there's some tire limitations and stuff like that. The young woman that died on that with that jet car, it's like you look at the car and stuff, and you're just like, man, that looks dangerous.
It was like an airplane with no wings.
Yeah,
it was scary looking.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
when you get in the liner, like people look at you different. Like people will be walking by and they're like, the guy's going for it. Like good luck, buddy.
Yeah, and I've been around a lot of jet cars.
Yeah.
So I understand like the feelings and like the sights and like the noises and stuff. I've even gotten to like sit in one and like do the fire up procedure.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. Like it's a scary thought. Like they're pressurizing fuel tanks and like they're doing all these like crazy things to them. Like they got outside starters and stuff. It's like it's a lot of procedure. There's a lot of people involved. And
yeah, I guess I'll take it back. A jet dragster, maybe, but not a land speed jet car. Mm-hmm. How about that?
Yeah, I could see that.
The jet dragsters are pretty cool.
They are.
Yeah.
And like when they bump in, it's like, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like Night of Fire at Bradenton is like one of those must-go events, especially if you have kids, because it's like awe-inspiring type of stuff.
Absolutely. I
can't imagine hanging it open for a minute.
Well, if you stay in the game long enough, you'll end up out there. I think that's one of the things that, like, if you stay in the game long enough, you just end up at Bonneville. Because where else are you going to go? Yeah. There's nowhere else to go.
All roads lead to Bonneville.
All roads lead to Bonneville, yeah.
It's just somehow it's that. And I always look at people like Freiberger, and, like, that seems like one of his, like, passions. His thing is, like, salt flats.
Yeah.
And maybe because he's, like, a California guy, so it's kind of, like, a little bit more in his backyard.
He's got that, and he's got El Mirage.
Yeah. So those flats are more of, like, a common thing. We don't really have any. Maybe you can do a swamp in Florida. Well,
jet ski guys, I guess, they get out there and like some of those jet ski going 130 miles an hour or something. That's got to be equivalent. It's got to be in the same type of headspace because of the traction and the surface. Like when you have a car sideways at 200 miles an hour, it's different. It's different than knocking the tires off and coming out of a parking lot. It's just different.
Yeah, so when you're in the car, is there like a point that you're like, it sounds stupid, but how do you keep it straight?
That's a great,
you know what I mean? You can start drifting easily.
And you do.
Because it's so wide.
Yeah. So there's markers and there's a center line. And generally when you get to the starting line and you're up, the starter will say, hey, I would hug the right side, or hey, I would hug the left side. Because as the event goes on, the course is getting torn up. So, you could get, like at El Mirage, the surface will be pretty good, and then there'll be 100 feet of just beach sand loose. And it's normally as you're approaching the lights. So your terminal velocity or near terminal velocity, and the traction goes away. And you just have to like not screw up,
Yeah.
So it's when you crash a car, have you crashed cars before?
Yeah, recently.
Do you know when you're starting to crash, everything generally slows down, and you get to really see, your brain focuses on what's happening, and everything else falls into the foreground, and you're crashing.
Yeah.
You're doing a real play-by-play. Bonneville's like that, and El Mirage is like that, because you get so much time in the space. Drag racing is like, you let go of the button. If everything's going good, the chute's out, did you win or lose? It's very fast.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Everything's over almost instantly.
Yeah. No, like I've been in the sixes before, and like the car wasn't the right car for it. So the car, I got to become aware of some of the problems the car had when it happened, but it wasn't really for me. And then, Brett has offered before, we've joked about like, let me make a lap in the Mustang, because his car just sounds like the way that car sounds outside of the car. It's like, it's worth him hearing it, because it's such a gorgeous sounding pass. But I'm like, man, you can turn that thing down. Like, give me like a 670 or something. I'll be fine.
Turn it down.
Just turn it down.
Just turn it down for a light 670 pass.
Oh, that thing's so fast.
Yeah, I mean, the sounds that it makes at 10,000 RPM with soft and hard lockups, kind of like
well, you got
magic.
I
would call it magic.
It is magic. And working on the JZ for a number of years, and then getting exposed to the Coyote. The Coyote's a pretty big engine. When you have 180 inches and now you've got 300 inches, and I kept telling Job, like, man, this thing's pretty good. He's like, it's too small. Like it's 100 inches too small. And then he started to come around it a little bit. He's like, this thing's pretty good. I go, it's pretty good. So we can make the small engine jokes.
Yeah.
Because his background was, you just get a 400-inch engine. Why would you have anything less than a 400-inch engine?
Yeah, like, do the rules say you can't? No? Well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's like, as engines increase, the amount of times it will turn and live changes, right? So the big engines, spinning them 10,000, managing the gas flow and all that stuff. Like, small engines definitely have their place. The Coyote's probably, I don't think there'll be a better 4-valve V8 that's readily available than the Coyote. The Coyote's really got it.
Yeah, I think there was like a perfect spot with like EPA regulations and like all kinds of like engines being overdeveloped a little bit, and then also mass produced, that kind of fell into a perfect spot. Now things are kind of taking a turn towards more gas efficient. They know exactly where the fine line of like, you don't need to over engineer it is.
Right.
So they just kind of get lazy, I guess, because you need the OEMs. People like to talk shit about the OEMs, but we need them.
No, there's very few. Like, I get to spend some time with a guy named Pete Ardema, and Pete makes engines out of other engines. So he's got a 6-liter NA V12 thing. Sounds like magic. And they've built these, get these old Indy IRL heads, cut them in half, weld them together, stick them on this other block. They're making engines.
Yeah.
The majority of us, like the other day I saw something about engine development. It's like, man, you're using the wrong word. Like, you took an engine that the OEM engineered, and you're finding the limits as you make mistakes because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking down to them, because I am them. I'm the aftermarket guys, right? So we're just doing stuff and figuring out where the lines are. But the OEM engineering, like the Coyote guys, that you look at the engines that came before the Coyote, like, I was working on Ford modular engines. There was nothing modular about them. One set of bearings in one block, another set of bearings in another block. They didn't run very well at all. A lot of parts, a lot of space, and the Coyote just runs. You know, like when I was primarily a Mustang technician, you had to put a supercharger on a 4-valve to run what a Coyote runs. Just like, that's nutty. That Coyote engine's pretty awesome.
I've heard you talk a lot about harmonics and an engine just kind of humming right. And I've heard you say, like, you know, other people we know, like, engines just isn't humming right. And you're like, that thing's just going to come apart because you can just, you can kind of audibly tell.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy thing to hear you say, is like, you can just audibly tell when an engine's like not happy.
There are more advanced people than me with this thing, right? Like, when we were, Job and I were kids, we had, I had a Supra, and there was a dude that was going to tune it up. And Job said, like, man, he said, I'm going to tap your shoulder when it goes sideways. So Job can't see anything. He's in the back seat of the car. And, you know, the thing's got a problem, gets into the problem. Job's like 2 seconds ahead of the dude with the laptop. You know? It just, you get it, you know, like,
yeah.
It sounds dumb, but like now I can have a customer call me and it's like, just hold the phone up in the air and run the engine, please. Like, don't put the cell phone under the hood. I can't hear nothing. Like, just like like, you're going to make a pass. Okay. Have someone walk up to the fence and just let me listen to it. And you could just tell either they're happy or they're not. There's a window.
Yeah. Like, when something's really laboring, I have a good concept of that.
Laboring is a very good term for the conversation because it is laboring.
Yeah.
And it will labor until it breaks, or it will run and perform.
Mm-hmm. Well, even, you know, not to put anything against Doug Cook, but when his car first was finished, I was like, man, that thing sounds like it's kind of like sputtering a little.
So there's a lot going on in an engine. And one of the most overlooked things is how the cylinder timing is managed individually at a speed or at a rate of change. And you can get into some situations where what you think you have in a timing map isn't what the engine is actually facing, and the engines will tear up, and people will stand around and they'll scratch their heads. With the Motec, the engines run better, and I know I'm probably going to sound like a dumb redneck for saying it, but when you really get close to them and you really start to understand engines, and then you understand what they want and what they don't want, the Motec stuff is just, it's smooth, man. This stuff runs good. Like, the other day I was driving my Supra and I turned the traction control off, and now it's just going to be a throttle and a turbo and a boost controller. And I did this like second gear, smell the smoke in the car, just rolling burnout. And it's just sitting at 8,500, just parked on limiter. And it's just awesome. Well, you can get away with that with a computer with really good limiters. Like, listen to Brett's car stage.
Yeah, like, it sounds like it hits like 8 different limiters. It just like does like a different sound, then it drops, then it changes, then it does like.
But listen closely to how smooth it is.
Yeah.
That's the opportunity to create limiters that work like that. Some guys just don't have it. And when you think about the limiters and how intentionally misfiring the engine creates harmonics and problems in the valve train and all this other stuff, like, you don't want to do that.
But some things, so you listen to a car, like, say some big block twin turbo car pulls up into the streetcar class, and you hear it sounding odd. What is your first instinct? Tune or something engine? Like, can you kind of audibly hear some difference there?
Yeah, well, big engines are tricky.
For you, at least.
If you have a big engine, well, it's simple, right? If you had a 2-cylinder engine, you're missing a cylinder, got it. If you have a big engine, you could have a couple plug wires swapped, and at idle, you're like, you know? So you have to, this goes back to knowing your, like, kind of knowing your platform. What are you into? What do you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'll listen to those, some engines don't make a lot of sense to me. The Audi V10 and 5 cylinders, my brain's just like, that's a weird sound, you know? But you got guys that work on them all the time, and they're probably really in tune with them. you know. So I think that you, it's just familiarization. You're going to go through a familiarization period.
Yeah, I've gotten to spend a lot of time talking to Hefner, and his knowledge on that V10 stuff is very next level. He can pinpoint issues. I think I watched him walk around the pits at one race where there was a bunch of V10s, and he pinpointed everybody's issue.
Yeah.
And just kept walking.
No, he's
like, oh, okay.
That dude is a treasure. He's a really good dude.
It's cool seeing like that kind of knowledge on like certain platforms, and just watching like even watching you and Job mess with, you know, Brett's tune, and like seeing precision, if you could call it that. You probably
no, it's real. But... Like, you know, my buddy called me last year, and I said, "What's going on down there?" He goes, "Man, I don't know how they're doing it, but they've got these Audi V10s, and they're blowing them up like they're DSMs. Like, how can they afford to recycle this much stuff?" And it's just a bunch of guys that are in it for the fast money. You know, like you had guys that they're into one platform and the money changes, and they get into the next platform and they follow the money. You know, they got businesses to run.
Yeah.
So
they're always the best at that platform too. They're the best in the country.
Eventually.
At our platform,
maybe.
we just...
But the V10 money and market is pretty crazy. Like Jason talks me through the operation of those cars. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't care if I could buy a helicopter at the end of the day. I don't care. I have no interest in getting into that level of complexity. I would like to live my days out with what I know, and I think I kind of know enough. So I just want to stay on this. I don't want to own one of those cars. If you gave me one, I would sell it and buy, 60 Caddy or something.
Well, I rode in the silver one you guys put together.
Yeah.
Had an AMS kit on it, I think, and that's even funny to think, like kits and plug and play. And
well, so there's the line. If you buy one of those cars because you want one and you want to turbo it, okay, go ahead. But like, just have 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's like a GTR, 1,000 horsepower. It's awesome. 2,000 horsepower, you're gonna be working. A Supra, 1,000 horsepower Supra is a pretty easy car to have. The thing will live pretty well. If you have a competent team around the vehicle, 1,000 horsepower car, like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
But like you have a 1,500 horsepower Supra, you're gonna have to work.
Yeah, like places like, Real Street and like Induction could put you together 1,000 horsepower Supra without even thinking about it. Like,
sure, but you have to.
You just spend the money.
The internet told everybody 1,000 wasn't enough, and most of us believed it.
1,000 rear-wheel drive on the street is plenty.
Oh, my car won't take 1,000 until like 90 miles an hour on an 18-inch tire. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fast enough. You know what I mean? Like when it was 1,500 horsepower, it wasn't more fun. I could only use it on concrete, and it was really riding. Like to the point where like, man, I could crash this thing. I'm like, it's a little too much.
So on that deal, what, like, I don't know how to word this. What turbo does it have, and have you thought about changing it because now they've become so good at smaller sizes?
Yes.
So you don't quite need as much?
Yes.
Like, you don't need an 86 millimeter turbo on your street Supra anymore.
No, I will be guilty of being a precision guy for however long I'm in this game. And right now I have a 7175 and a 7685 next gen. And the car had an 80 on it for a while, and I move around a little bit. The 7175 on my engine right now, I have a 96 millimeter crank and VVTi. It's lit at like 4,000 RPM.
Yeah.
I can't get it without closing the throttle. I can't get it dumb enough to manage second on worn asphalt. And then the 7685, it has much more personality, more of a traditional Supra turbo personality. But, you got 76 millimeter turbos that'll, even at just a 1-to-1 pressure ratio, they put out a lot of power. The next gen stuff is pretty cool. And it seems like it's always been this way where there are the ringers. Like a 6466, you're not going to beat a 6466. Like that turbo and that brand That's magic. You know, but you can go to another brand and you may find a different 69 millimeter that runs better. But like a 76, 75, you just just buy Precision. That's the one. You know, like they got it like that.
I've heard Victor say, like, for a street super, he's like, just do the 64 and you'll be so happy. Like, it's so good.
It is. That's wisdom speaking. Victor's been in it for a long time. You know,
like he's not trying to sell every customer an 86 for their street car. Like I have an 86 on my race car next gen, and we just switched to that recently. But I wouldn't put that on my street car because if you go drive it on the street, you'll have to be flooring it for a mile before it's finally lit.
Well, if you have
it's never been tuned for that.
A TH400, I think one of the worst, and I hope that I don't have to get yelled at for this, but I think one of the worst is like you got a TH400 and an 80 something millimeter and you're getting coffee in your Supra. It's miserable. It's miserable. That's a miserable ride. That thing can't move the car. It doesn't have enough power.
Yeah.
You know, it needs more forward gears, you know, and most of the time that comes in the form of a manual.
Yeah, I would definitely see that. I'm not really one of those guys that's like, oh, I drive my street car all the time. I kind of make fun of that because I'm like, do you really prefer to drive your caged street car, race car more than like just a regular ass truck or something?
And I'm really glad I never put a bar in my Supra. When I was racing half mile stuff with it, it was dumb and I could have been hurt. But I didn't put a bar in it then because I'm like, this car's not going to stay this way. Yeah. Like I'll just have this car, and you know, like the other day my kid got in and fired up, pulled out of the garage. I said, "You ready for that?" She goes, "I think I'm ready." I go, "Maybe." You know, but I can't. I'll just close the throttle on it and let her drive it.
Well, the sadness of cutting that dash would be hard to swallow just in itself.
Oh, dude, it's an old car. It took me 4 dashboards to get that dashboard. Order them from Japan. They show up. They're wrecked. Order another one. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to go through that. Yeah, that thing's fine the way it is. I almost 25'd the Mustang years ago. It was getting real dumb. I had 16 injectors, methanol, and I was just like headed down this wormhole. And something in my head was like, you know, this is going to be a lot of work. And when you get old, you're going to have to cut that bar back out. And I was like, I think I'll just not.
Yeah.
Like, the fastest it will ever go is 850. Okay, that's cool.
From my understanding, it is still pretty dumb and still getting pretty dumb of like the amount that you've done into it. Not dumb, but like, you know, a lot into it. The Mustang.
Oh yeah, it's. I think that if I had to like answer to someone that didn't understand this game we play, they would probably call me retarded, because like the wiring, the paint, the engine is like, you know, it's like Porsche money.
Yeah.
But I tell you, that car, you know, I could say it sounds cliche or whatever, but the car changed my life because I was on a course of the same W2 for 3 or 4 years straight. I wanted to start a family, and along came this dude that's like, hey, you want to go race this car with me? And going out and racing the car gave me exposure to a different knowledge base, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to make friends out racing in a series, and then an opportunity to start a company. So that car doesn't owe me nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy to, it's going to eat 15 grand or so because the headers are a bit wrong and the transmission doesn't have overdrive. So it's probably 15 grand to fix that between all the things that happen along the way. So right now it still has a dog box in it. It's pretty fun, but it goes like 50 miles an hour on the road. It has no overdrive, but you know, it's whatever. It's a 90s Mustang, you know?
What's the plan for it? Is it just enjoy it as it is and it's a forever car and just keep tinkering on it, make it
nothing's forever. I think I'll keep it as long as I'm enjoying it. I was almost kind of scared to get it done because I thought, what if I've gone all the way down this wormhole with this car and I don't even like it? Because sometimes that happens. Then people they put this imaginary deadline of I'll do this and then I'll sell it. You know, I'm like, I don't want to do that. So then I started driving it a little bit, and it's pretty cool. And I'll look at it, and I text my friends like, You want to look at my Mustang? Like, it's dumb, but it's like, it makes me feel like I'm a kid again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I was talking to Jim, and he was like, "Yeah, I had to do the exhaust on that thing twice."
Yeah.
He was like,
I think
"That's
of the
hitting
reason-
tires,"
Yeah.
because he said it was so low that he had to do the exhaust twice,
Well, the exhaust goes under the axle
which is rare on a Mustang.
because it has an anti-roll bar. And it's mini tubbed, and it has a large tire, not too big, but pretty fat tire on the back of it. And the first dude that did the tailpipes, he was like super proud about it. I go, man, that looks like a G body. He goes, no, man. I Google like Mustang tailpipe, and he was like, and I said, man, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go. And then something, it's fixed now. But yeah, I got to spin the tires in it the other day, and I was like, all right.
So it finally did a burnout.
It didn't do a burnout.
Allegedly, this is the
Yeah, Jim.
That's the story.
Jim needs a burnout.
that it hasn't done a burnout in I don't know how long.
Well, for a while there, when I started the company, I didn't really mess with it, and then I got it running again, and I would at least once a year do a donut.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I met my wife, and when you like get into a committed relationship, the time for the car changes.
Yeah.
I built an entire race car. I spent like, it's whatever it is. It's stupid, but I built a race car, and then I met my wife. And the same race car sitting in a storage. Like, I will give it to somebody if I knew they would just go frickin' finish it and race it.
Was she not excited by the racing or the burnouts or the donuts?
No. She likes cars. It was just where my life was before with through my 20s and 30s was like probably a lot of fairly reckless behavior when it came to women, because it was like, what's that one run like? Check that one out. What's that one like? Oh, check that one out. And I just wasn't on a good path. And then when I met my wife, it was like, okay, you've been asking for something like this, and here she is. So why don't you try? Mm-hmm. And then there's another child involved. So just the cars slowed down because the company is still eating a lot of time. You can only do so much. If you have a family and a company and hot rods, something's kind of got to give. And then as you have a family, there's these cycles. When your kid's 12 or 13, she or he may not want to hang out with you, and then you may go back to your hobbies until they come back into it. Their adolescent years are over, and now they want to be your buddy again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a seasonal hobby. But for a while there, I just didn't have time for it, and I'm spoiled because I have my Supra. So it's like the Mustang, wants to eat 20 grand. Like, Toyota just runs.
And the Supra was a shop car in a way.
Yeah, I mean
a development-ish.
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff with that car. I built my favorite engine combinations. When someone says like, "What's your favorite engine combination?" I can say that's my favorite engine combination because I had them all.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite turbo? Well, this is my favorite turbo. This is why. So yeah, there was a period in that company's life where Gio and I, we built the cars that we used for advertising. The S2000 was Gio's car. The Supra was Gio's car. My Supra was my car. And we understood that part of having that vehicle in an advertising role was it was going to be in jail at times. But he wanted to go faster than I did. So my car didn't spend as much time in jail. But it did get worked on a good amount. Like there's a hole in my firewall where a turbine ejected,
Scary stuff.
Yeah. I'm lucky it didn't catch on fire.
Yeah.
But, I was doing dumb stuff. They said, how much will it make? And it's like, well, how much will it make? It'll make this much. No, there's got to be more. And I said, I'll just show you what it'll make. Well, then you overspeed the compressor by so much that if you don't close the throttle slow enough, turbo ejectos.
Interesting. Why would it do that? Shouldn't the
overspeed?
I know, but shouldn't the blow-off valve save it?
Yeah, it should. But guess what happens? The blow-off valves are reactive.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't quick enough.
No, the column, you have a turbo and overspeed and you close the throttle. Where does that air go?
Makes sense.
That way.
Yeah.
and then the blow-off valve it's there later. So you learn. You're like, hey, as I'm approaching the limiter, I'm going to use my computer to close the throttle. And the limiter is like buttery smooth. Mm-hmm. You can park it on the limiter, and it sounds like a rental car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
control stuff.
That happened to me recently where I'm pretty sure this is how it happened. Was I crashed my car a couple weeks ago.
How'd you crash it?
A couple months ago now. So the 2J, I hit the limiter in first gear.
Okay.
I missed the shift point on first to second. I shift myself on the transmission. It hit the limiter. Freeze plugs came out.
Aftermarket freeze plugs or factory freeze plugs?
Factory freeze plugs came out. All three of them, one on each side, and whatever the other third one was. But water right under the tires and then right into the wall. So all happened almost instantly.
Man, I tell you,
but the freeze plugs came out, and that's what caused it. But I mean, the head gasket would have went. The head gasket went, but the pressure came out the freeze plugs. Which was
Job and I had this discussion a lot, and there's I got some stuff in beta that I'll be able to sell a guy, and it'll keep him from telling a stupid story like that.
I'm happy I can tell the story, at least.
Well, the problem is you may lose your car for a year.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. It's like, okay, I get it. We're going to play this game. We're going to spend a lot of money. We're going to break some stuff. Okay. Let's not crash it. Let's avoid crashing it. Yeah. And if there's simple things that can be done to avoid crashing it, let's just do those and call that non-negotiable. Because you need safety. Like nobody puts himself in the car tight enough because you don't have the physical leverage to tighten yourself in the car by yourself. Someone else puts you in the car. Learn that out at Bonneville. When those men put you in the car, your pelvis is bottomed in the seat. It's so tight. Mm-hmm. But that way you don't get the inertia of movement during the crash.
Yeah. Don't they use like a leverage stick or something at some point?
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that.
Yeah, but you got to have safety, man. And avoidable stuff is
yeah, I feel like I've seen like a leverage stick to like tighten
hold the belt,
a harness.
Yeah.
I mean, I always tighten myself in because.
But you can't. So when you put yourself in the car,
I take a deep breath. I try.
But you've unfortunately, no matter how much you cinch down on your shoulders, your pelvis isn't tight enough. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the models of how the spinal compression happens on impact, the pelvis needs to be located first. That's going to give you the maximum amount of chance of not having damage to your body after a crash. Mm-hmm. So you can't physically tighten your pelvis. You can pull your shoulders down, but your pelvis is loose.
Yeah.
So, like if it's like, if it was like, hey, if there's one thing you could tell people and they would listen, somebody else should put you in the car. If you're going fast, somebody else should put you in the car. Nothing, accept the help, be happy to have it. Somebody else put your belts on.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I was going like 150, like
150 is not slow, man.
It's not slow. It's not slow.
It's not how fast you're going, it's how fast you stop.
Yeah.
And if you stop the car quickly, you're gonna get hurt or get killed. So it's like, you drag race, and there's always a chance you could flip the thing and catch one of the uprights that holds the guardrail in the head, and you'll be dead. But most of the time, you're just going to be ping-ponging off the guardrails, especially if you're blowing freeze plugs out of the thing.
Yeah, and 2Js, they're so high up on the engine that the water came out so high. Like, I have a belly pan, but it came out so high up in the engine bay that it just, like, shot.
We shot a freeze plug out of Gio's car once at Texas Invitational. I had a 8685 and 2 kits, and I think he was brake boosting it, and it just went right up into all of it, and the head just kind of went and the freeze plug fell out of the back of the engine because there's also, you have to like ease into it. If I hand you a 5-pound dumbbell, you may manage it, but if I throw it at you, it's going to hurt, and you can only put so much of a load change in front of components before they don't have, the time to manage the stress. So you like blow a freeze plug out of it.
That's what happened. It drove hard into the limiter and just like so quickly and like hit it a bunch of times that,
Do you have a Motec yet?
No.
Yeah.
I have a Haltech.
The Motec has the limiters, man.
But it's not in the car yet.
The Motec has limiters. The limiters save you a lot of money.
It's on a Pro EFI
Yeah.
still.
Yeah, they have funny limiters.
It's worked well, and I know there's a lot of things that it still does that some other newer ECUs apparently aren't still up to the date on, with like boost control and stuff.
I think that and I don't want to really go down into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to trash anybody or anything.
I don't want to try. I don't care to trash him. It's
Jason's not even part of it anymore.
It's if a dude wanted to not have to have a data logger, and he just wanted it to get built by good technicians, and close the hood. It was an affordable system that would give you that.
Yeah.
If you needed data, or if you needed something that was that made itself available in circles of talent, it wasn't the right system. So, like when you get to messing with systems like the Motec, well, who else is messing with systems like Motec? Oh, the good guys, the best guys. So you immediately get pulled up into a circle of talent.
Yeah.
You know, like I got a couple of kids that I help with Motec stuff, and like, man, they're going to be so far ahead of me because they're getting a head start. It's just age, you know?
It's time.
But people think that it's intimidating because they've been told that it was intimidating or told it was expensive. It's like, no, it's not. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. I've talked to a lot of people that are pretty avid Motec people. You know, I've had you on, Brett. I've had Aaron Miller on. People like that are very avid in what they use.
Yeah.
And, you know, cars like Aaron's car, I always point to that as like the ultimate streetable 6-second car. Yes, Brett's car is faster. It's probably cooler, but for like the perfect get in and go car, I don't think that silver Viper has.
Is that the
really
one with
any
the side pipes on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's mean.
Big wing still. Like,
mean.
It's been what, 670s? Like,
yeah. Well, he's a precision guy. You can listen to how he uses his language. He's a very like dun 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 guy. Yeah. So, you know, for him, I like listening to him talk about the system too, because he's the kind of guy that he doesn't have time for junk. He just doesn't. Like, he's probably been bitten once or twice as a kid, but after that, he's like, I don't have time for that junk. That's why he's excelled.
Well, when you have customers too that, you know, like a Viper customer and like a V10 market customer they expect like perfection out of those cars. Like, when I get this back, it needs to just work. I put any fuel in it. I don't need to think about it. So that requires a different level of finesse. Like a race car, you expect race car things.
Yeah, people are willing to accept a lot of stuff because they're just excited to be playing. You know, like if you can't close, like if you can't close at the bar, a lot works for you. You'll date a chick and you'll be happy to be dating a chick. But if you can like do the dance, you know, you get the V10s, you get the Ferraris, you know, you get the high level stuff. You know?
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So what are you up to now? Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. So
love to be able to promote that.
I think it's a long story, and there's not a super simple way to get through it, but there was no longer I was no longer going to be able to be at Real Street anymore. And once I understood that, I set some boundaries on what I could and couldn't do and would and wouldn't do. And I said, well, how many people my age get to have this level of a restart? So we worked a deal. It's a 5-year deal. It's got a 5-year note. So they pay me out of the company. I also got the second super race car was part of the deal.
The white one?
Yeah. we built this freaking incredible car. The thing's just beautiful. And then got scared of the EPA, and it just stopped. It just stopped.
Interesting.
So I had a very different view and have a different view on the risk of the EPA, and I take them very seriously. But there's not enough money in my checking account for them to come for me. And unless they wanted to make an example out of me, which if they did, maybe they will. I don't give a shit, man. I'm not gonna live like that. I grew up, I still ride motorcycles, still do dumb shit. I still gotta live. So for me, I want to go and be able to play with cars, and that car was sitting there. So we were getting through the numbers side of it, and I said, just give me that car because I'll do something with it, and it'll always be paying homage to the company. So it didn't end smooth, but it was an 18-year ride. Yeah. And not a lot of guys get to take an 18-year ride, especially in the industry, right? So regardless of how it ended, it gives everybody an opportunity to learn. For over 10 years, that deal was a handshake. I owned the company. Those guys were my partners. But I could have screwed them, and a couple of times people came to me and said, man, I can get you a lot of money. And I said, no, man, I'm never going to go to a race and see one of those guys and have to look away. So I just wasn't gonna screw around.
Yeah.
So then we all became partners about the time that Dave Chappelle came back on the scene. 17.
Interesting.
And I wanted some things, and they weren't going to give me those things. And then I was watching Dave Chappelle, and Dave talks about what happened, but he never really tells you exactly what happened. But that there's only so many things people will push other people for. And, it's women, it's money, it's power. It's the same bullshit that's been plaguing man for thousands of years. So when I saw all that happen, I was like, yeah, I'm out, And my older kid had gone off to school, and it was hard to have, when your kid, as tumultuous as teenagers could be, when they move out, you're like, oh shit, is she okay? Like all the time, you're like, is she okay? And, you got this beautiful young woman out in this crazy world. And it was hard to worry about her a lot. And beginning of the year, stuff with Real Street came to a close. I signed the paperwork. I'm out. I got a little shop. My kid calls me. She says, hey, what's up? I said, not much. I said, what are you doing? She's like, I don't know. I said, you want to come home? She said, yeah. I said, all right, come home. So I went and picked her up. And she's lucky. Nothing bad happened to her. And I said, well, I got to start another company. You want to hang out? Like, we can just hang out. And you can help me out, and we'll get to know each other. So that's what we've been doing. And it's really cool. She's a cool kid. We got a 2023 Civic Type R, a 98 Civic with the P16A, the Supra, and
two Supras.
Two Supras. Yeah, but the one Supra doesn't run yet. It just looks good.
Yeah.
So I just go out in the garage, sit in, and make car noises. Imagine it had a shifter.
As one does. I do that in my car, even though it runs.
Yeah, I can't imagine it with an automatic, though. When I imagine with an automatic, it just feels weird. So I imagine it with a stick shift.
Really? The race car?
Yeah, man. I don't have time for that. I'm just not. I get it. It's faster. I get it's this. I get it's that. I don't want to argue all the reasons why an automatic is a better race.
I don't need to explain them to you or argue to.
I don't want them.
You know more than anyone.
I want a clutch. I want to put a little brake pressure in it, drag it into the first beam, take a breath, turn the second bulb on, and let the clutch out. That's what I want to do.
My only worry is the clutching has become annoying.
No, it's not.
The weighted and the this and that.
Listen, you are talking nonsense.
That's where it's nonsense. Gotten. I can get it with a regular style clutch.
How much do you know about slipper clutches?
I know a entry-level amount.
Okay, you don't know enough. So you're scared.
Oh, absolutely
It's okay.
not.
But guess what it is? It's a solvable solution. The solvable problem. Like, you're not going to get a slipper clutch and not figure it out.
Yeah.
torque converter is a bit of a mystery. Very few people make torque converters work well.
Yeah, I have no idea what goes on in it.
Right. So you could figure out a clutch years before you'd
Yeah.
figure out a proper converter.
I understand the centrifugal forces of the clutch and adding weights to try to slow down the
Yep.
the slip of it and everything. It gets frustrating to me but I guess when you talk to the right people, they
have a
set
base
you up on a
and
base
counter.
that pretty much works.
The base should be enough to get the clutch to the counter.
Yeah.
So the base is it's a rally race. We've got an engine that needs to be managed. We've got a tire that has traction. We've got a relay race. I only have 2 people in this relay race, base and the counter.
Yep.
I'm going to get the thing moving. As the engine speed increases, the counter gets the baton. We're going down the track. When I pull a gear change and the engine speed drops below where it wants to be happy and wants to be in a happy speed range of the engine, the counter isn't there and it slips. So the engine never has to deal with the direct drive stress. When you shift an engine at 8,500 RPM and it goes to 6,000 and the traction's locked and the clutch is locked, the engine has to labor.
Yeah.
When you have a slipper clutch, you're just like, it's just on to the next party. That's
Very
like when you
hard
listen
on
to
the
Brett's
LPG.
car run with that configuration and with the torque converter that Job's done, you're like, man, listen to that. The engine is just doing a thing. And look how fast it is.
It doesn't sound like it drops more than like 8 RPM. Like it like hardly drops any RPM on the shift, what it sounds like.
Job's pretty proud of that. There's some fundamental things that if you understand some fundamental things, then you understand how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's easy to look at all the other options and be like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You can get a lot done, but you're not going to get
I
there.
gotta pee real quick.
All right.
No, my tuner's never even been on this show yet.
Yeah.
Freaking alpha.
He enjoys probably the right amount of exposure. You know, he's always working.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to tell you he's good.
Yep.
He's a neat dude.
I know.
I like him.
He's very interesting. He's very soft-spoken, but is like, he'll tell you like 10 words and you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, shit. Like, of course.
Him and I have a couple bets rolling that if we live long enough, we'll laugh about it later. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's like, can I just be on? But like, I'll just like be in the back. I won't like be on camera. I'm like, it's fine. Yeah. So with, we were talking about stick shift, but more about what you're doing right now.
Okay, so I have
So you're messing with a bunch of different cars
started another business
with your daughter.
with my daughter. It's called RS Garage. And my thought is to be able to get away from any sort of corporate type mentality. So my kid is putting together a website. She's good with the computer. She likes cars. I've been screwing together some engines. So I had a handful of engines that were people that they knew me and they needed engines. So I did those. I'm starting to take on some customer engines. There's less than 10 cars that I'll care for. They'll be through the shop, but I don't want to work on cars as a primary. I'm too old for it.
Not wrench on cars, but like precision put together an engine.
Yeah. I have my back has a couple of herniated discs that if I lift heavy, I was a dumbass, man. I used to lift short blocks up and stuff, transmissions and whatnot. But my hand is starting to get some problem in it, my primary hand. So I've been working with both hands, which has been interesting. It's not like cripple or anything, but in 15 years, if I keep it up, it's going to be a ball of pain. So I've been building engines. There's a couple people I've been doing tuning support for. It's probably easier for me to go back into tuning for money, but the travel scares me because I don't want to be away from my daughter. I just don't. You know, she's 6 years old, and the fun that I have with her is only happening right now. Yeah. You don't get the days back. You know, your kid's never going to be who they are today, tomorrow. They're always developing. So maybe some travel tuning for some select people.
Remote though? Remote
only on a car that I've worked on. Man, cars are like when you have. Normally, when someone contacts me, I'll just say, like, send me a picture of the engine compartment, and I can just look over the engine compartment, and I understand the scale of the project, and I understand where it's going. Well, when you're remote tuning a car, if you've never worked on that car before, you don't know what is about to become a liability to your reputation. You don't know the car. So for me, it's like, man, if you're going to have me tune your car, pay me to come. I'll teach you something that day. The flight's cheap. Like you're gonna learn something, and you're gonna be better off.
Yeah.
So like if you can get a guy that has, over 20 years of knowledge to come out and like give you one-on-one on your vehicle, like you're picking up a lot of time. So the value is big. Like I think I could sell that if I wanted to. I just don't want to be traveling a lot. I travel right now about once a month. I've been working on a project with ARP. That's the second thing I'm doing. So I'm getting a business started. I know a lot of younger guys that I could bring them in, get them making good money, and set myself free in 15 years. So when I meet these young men that are talented and they say like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to afford to have a house. A lot of younger people say that right now. And I'm like, nah, man, you can't say that because like you just have to find a way. So like if I can get some young guys sped up and making some good money, that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't need, I didn't leave Real Street empty-handed. There's money involved. It's not enough that I can do nothing, but it's enough that I can make better decisions. Because when I started Real Street, I was a kid, and I just wanted to be able to afford to have a family.
Not up against a wall right now.
Yeah, man. I'm like looking around. Like it feels like you ever seen that movie Black Sheep where Chris Farley falls down the hill? Bro, that feels like the last 25 years of my life. And I just got up and I'm hurt, but I'm looking around, I'm laughing, and I'm like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
I'm just taking it easy. So like I told myself 6 months, I'll give myself 6 months. Figure out what you want to do. So I've been moving pretty slow because I don't want to screw up. It's more important for me to go home, and when my door opens, my child is meeting a happy, excited to be home father. When you are suffering through the work and you go home and you want to sit down and have a beer and watch TV and like, nah, man, I want to get home. I want to play hide and seek. I want to like get in the canoe. I want to do something fun. I want to go for a bike ride with my kid. So whatever I do with the rest of my time, I'm just going to be happy about it. Like this stuff that I got going on right now, like it's pretty good. Like I got some pretty good stuff going on. I got a guy that's phenomenal, CNC. We're making some parts. I got enough engines moving that I can not go backwards financially, and an opportunity to grow into a role of technical support at ARP. And ARP is a freaking badass company. That company is a bad. You go there, and I've been there a handful of times now, and you learn like when you start geeking out about phase state change through heat treating and like all the stuff that goes into making fasteners, it's badass. Because I was a mechanic, like you put a clutch in a K-Series car, guess what? The front transmission mount bolts are cross-threaded because they like wait to put them in and then they just jam them in. So you're like, as a mechanic, if you can't take the bolts in and out of the car, you can't make money. So like hardware is something that I respect deeply. So now I've got this role that I can learn about. That may be pretty cool. But even if I can't turn it into a way to pay bills, I'm having a good time learning. I'm learning a bunch of stuff. There's some really smart people there.
From my understanding, some of their machinery doesn't exist anymore. You can't just buy that.
Well, you're dealing with
make the fasteners.
There is stuff there that I'm not allowed to talk about because it's proprietary machines.
Of course.
Period. I mean, you're talking about a guy like the Gary that started it was like aerospace bolts guy. Then he moved into automotive, and the son Mike grew up in it, and now there's another young man involved. So it's 3 generations.
Oh, cool.
These dudes are bolt guys. I mean, like you ask him a question and he just like, boom, he fires his answer in there. You're like, holy moly. But there's a lot that goes into hardware that you just don't know. Like a lot of failures are just due to installation. A lot of engine failures, like who knows how to put a head on right? Man, whenever I was building a lot of JZ engines, I put the head on one way and I have good gasket retention because it takes an extra hour to do it. But how much time do you lose when you blow a head gasket, you know?
Yeah.
But it was hard. It was the dance of the hardware.
I've talked to Brett a little bit about how he puts his head on his car and they heat up the head gasket and do like a whole procedure and like even knowing how to do that and doing that right and with the lubricant on the head studs and everything like that. There's quite a lot to it.
I mean, there's people that take a whole afternoon to bolt a head on. They'll turn the head on at not 5 foot-pounds at a time, but 20 foot-pounds at a time, and they're allowing the relationship between the protrusion and the receiver to kind of acclimate. You know?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think about that's why if you kick a head gasket on a Coyote at the track, that car's pretty much out. If your small block Chevy kicks a head gasket, a lot of those guys could, I talked to James Tall and he's like, oh, I could put a head gasket on this car in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But then you talk to somebody with a Coyote and it's like, this is a one-day event.
Oh, yeah. If you have most overhead cam engines don't loan themselves to being serviceable at the track. Yeah. If you have a Pro Mod, you're working on it. You're putting mains in it between rounds, and it's no big deal. Mm-hmm. It's just you're just putting mains in it. That's that life. Well, the smaller engines, they're under more stress. So when they break differently.
Yeah, I watched the Top Fuel guys putting sleeves in it.
Yeah,
they were banging out the sleeves and tossing them in the trash.
Yeah,
just a dozen sleeves.
If a guy that was worried about whether or not his ring gap was 2,000ths big knew the tolerances in an engine like that, he would think he would lose his mind to know how big the tolerances are because they have to be so loose because the thing has no familiarization period. It just needs to work for 1,320 feet and then get it again.
Yeah, not even 1,000 feet on those deals.
Oh yeah, they because of the speed.
Yeah, they only run 1,000 feet, so they just start up, do a little burnout, and then 1,000 feet.
Yeah,
they do one startup in the pit, and they start them up on alcohol, and then switch them to nitro.
Yeah, there's some cars that run out at Bonneville, and then when they go over to nitro, you're just it's amazing. I'm so curious to run nitromethane. I've used it in small amounts, but when you listen to some old dude say we had a load in that thing, he's you listen to the tone, you're how much nitro was it? And he's it was a lot of nitro. Nitro is pretty badass.
Well, the Honda guys the NA Honda guys kind of started to touch on it a lot more.
I think they didn't. It's not that they started to touch on it a lot more. They got caught.
Interesting.
They if you go to a race imports versus domestics, you have a fuel check.
Yeah.
And fuel checks are not always simple, and then they don't really. Once you catch someone being disrespectful about the rules, you have to have more stringent fuel checks.
I believe they do an oil check as well.
Yeah.
So that
because it doesn't go right out of the oil.
Yeah.
But I think that if we got our act together, there'd probably be more fuel testing. Because the guys that know how to work around fuel are going to work around fuel, and the guys that don't are going to lose races. Because it's the easiest thing to do is add fuel.
Yeah, but it takes a lot to spark that in a small engine from what I've seen.
Well, you have to respect the pressure ratios too. There's a reason why a turbocharged engine is a lot different because it has some level of exhaust pressure no matter what. Mm-hmm. A supercharged engine, you can get the heat out of the engine very quickly. So I think that turbocharging with nitro is a bit different. That's why, but in small doses, we kind of get a preview of how good it could be We just haven't gotten brave enough to do it. Like 5% nitro is pretty cool. You can tell it runs better.
Yeah.
You know?
You can audibly hear when engines change over.
Oh yeah,
the
but those
alcohol.
are big amounts of nitrous. Like there's a car
Yeah,
out
they're
at
like 95%.
there's a car that goes to El Mirage in Bonneville, and it's the 911 Roadster. Bro, that thing is thunderous. It runs out of gas. They can only run it to the 3 because it's just out of the fuel tank is not big enough to digest any more fuel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just sucking in that much. So I guess to touch back on what you're doing now, in like a perfect world going forward, what things would you be doing then? Like,
Well,
because you do have these options, and you have, I mean, you probably know more people in this industry than most.
I like I said, man, I'm just looking around.
So many directions you could go, and so many cool avenues.
Yeah, I wanna work with good people that value the process and can respect limitations. You know, I never thought I would make as much money as I made in my last year at Real Street, but I also recognized, very accurately recognized, that I had caught up in a game. There was never going to be enough money. If this wasn't enough, there's no such thing as enough. Money's tricky like that. If you eat too much cake, you'll throw up. You drink too much, you'll get sick. But money, there's like, where's the limit? And I don't need that. I'm a pretty simple dude, man. And I'm okay being a pretty simple dude. I've never been as comfortable with myself.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I got into cars because you can get into cars and you can make friends. Because there's other kids that socially, like I would say socially, I was probably a bit behind. You know, I was a fat kid with a mullet. You know what I mean? Like,
Sounds like a cool kid these days.
oh yeah, they're
Currently
coming back,
now,
baby.
yeah,
I
it's
see those
back.
kids and I say like, I knew it. Because my wife says like,
You were just early.
my wife says like, do you know why your hair fall out? I said, no, baby, why my hair fall out? She said, because you had that haircut. And I go, damn, that is some shit right there. Yeah, she's like, your hair punish you, falls out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't go a mullet because it'll punish me.
No, you got
it.
plenty. You're good.
Got
The
it.
worst thing about being bald is the sun. Sun comes for you hard.
My dad's bald, but he just runs into things all the time, which
Oh,
I never
yeah, that
understood.
too.
I'm like, how? Like, I don't just run into things. How is that a bald thing?
It's
That you just start running into like ladders and stuff.
It just happens. Anyway, let's talk about what we're doing.
Yeah.
I've got a good amount of JZ engines in process. I have a good process, and I can sell those engines. So I'm going to be selling JZ engines. I've got a choice amount of parts accounts. I don't want to advertise for Joey's piston company that pops up next week. I got my guys. So I'm not going to be advertising and working with the latest, greatest turbocharger company. I got my turbo company. I've got my engine management company. I've got my connecting rod supplier. So I want to work with, it's around 10 people
yeah.
or companies, and I'll sell parts. I'll sell engine management, Motec, and I'll do some tuning on Motec. And if I can pick up work with ARP, I'm super excited because I'm learning a lot, and it's an incredible group of people. The guys that run that company, like when you walk through that company, people are, the culture of the company is incredible. I mean, it's a whole nother story to talk about,
Yeah.
right? But it gets me out in LA. I get to see LA and bang around a little bit. The videographer that I worked with for 4 years or so at Real Street, he's with me. His name's Luis. He's incredibly talented, and him and I are having a really good time. So we've been putting content together. I probably was going to launch after Speed Week, but I thought like, man, I got to go talk to Cooper in case I barrel roll that freaking liner at Speed Week next week and end up
God.
a veggie. Like I got to go say hi and tell him what I'm up to. But yeah, I have that going on. But I'm enjoying the headspace of thinking through what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my life was just on my heels. Now it wasn't on my, I'll take the blame for it because I was the one driving the car. I was just going too fast for too long.
One of the things I would love to see is more camera time, more whatever it be in any shape or form, more spreading your knowledge and your personality and content, I guess. I mean, content has been my life for the past 10 years, so I always fall back to that. But there's some people that create content, and then there's some people that really should create content. And I know a lot of people that I'm like, man, you really need to.
I know. Listen, it took me a really long time to understand that. And after I spent some time with some guys that create content for a living, it really didn't make sense to me that space even existed. So I'll have a YouTube channel. It won't be as tight as things were at the end there. Like at the end of my time at Real Street, I couldn't show a picture of my car. I couldn't say car on video because we were worried about the ghosts.
Wow. Yeah, you guys were that.
Well, because what are you going to do?
In a way, yeah.
What are you going to do? Like, you have 40 families that are eating out of this place. What are you going to go show your ass and get shut down? No, you're going to get in line fast because these young men that pay their bills are counting on you to not do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
So we got in line because we needed to be in line. But it was past a level that I could deal with. You know what I mean? I don't want to be worried about my 90 Mustang being a problem. I would not, like if I had a new diesel truck, I'm not touching that thing. I wouldn't take a particulate filter off of anything, period. I think that's stupid. I wouldn't buy a new car and take the cats off of it. It's stupid.
I would agree with that.
Give me my 90s stuff and I'll be all right.
I mean, a lot of people like, oh, stupid cats, but like, yeah, but then it smells like gas. Just leave it on there.
Well, a catalytic converter on a gasoline engine is no big deal. The diesel systems suck, and I think we have a short-sighted view on it because the trucks don't stay on the road very long, and then they get recycled again, and then you're just recycling more junk. Diesel engine can't live with all that crap on it.
Well, so with your previous stuff, like, who did you look at and you were like, oh, we're worried that we're going to end up like that? Because there wasn't that much precedent. Maybe Corey Willis, PFI Speed. Like, there's the precedent wasn't really there that, like, somebody's going to come down on
You don't
me.
get to think like that. You can't think like that because
You don't want to be the precedent.
you are up against an entity that has a rule book that they're writing as they go. So in 2018, you have a lot of stuff you have to back into the Volkswagen Dieselgate.
True.
Volkswagen lied to the EPA, and it sucked because everything was cool. You do you, I'll do me. Everything's cool. Oh shit! You got two different tune-ups in that thing. They felt betrayed. So now it's like scorched earth.
Yeah.
So we didn't do it, but an OEM level manufacturer, you have to respect that when some of those emission standards came out, some manufacturers, like Caterpillar, came off the road. They said, we'll no longer build over-the-road engines. We can't do it. The engines won't live well. Ford lost a ton of money. 6-liter Ford, those things were terrible.
I think they had like 100% failure rate.
Well, but if you took all that stuff off of them, they would live. They were eating their own crap every single day.
Yeah.
You couldn't eat your own crap and live.
I wouldn't make it very long.
No, I don't recommend
Human
it.
Centipede movie kind of showed that.
I think you're right. I never saw it because it doesn't interest me.
It's not really worth seeing.
Yeah, but you have to you got to be careful.
Yeah, you got to play in their box.
You're navigating this thing, But
I think it ruined Volkswagen. I mean, they had to sell a part of Porsche to pay off their fine. They had to sell a large chunk of Porsche to pay off like $1.8 billion fine from the EPA because of a simple dual tune-up. And when you look at it even more in depth, like it was a steering wheel angle sensor they were using. When it was being tested, nobody's hands were on the steering wheel on the dyno. It had one tune-up. When it had any input on a steering wheel and any input, it found the second tune-up. I guess that's how they did the...
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That was how they kind of tricked the EPA. Because if you're on a dyno, you're not going to touch the steering wheel.
Yeah. No,
it knew when it was being dynoed.
That's trick. The
kind of respect it.
Yeah, no, I had a car that the customer was really a troubled customer, but I couldn't not work for them. So at 0 vehicle speed, it had a dyno number in it. When it was rolling, it had less.
Yeah.
And she never knew the difference because she was only going to put down so much anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing would live, because it had 2 different tune-ups in it at all times. So it's like sometimes you bend the rules, but what Volkswagen did was too much. That was real dumb.
Yeah, that's such a bold move. I can't. I'd like to imagine how board meetings went, where they're like.
But they probably knew. You have to really start to peel the onion back when you look at a modern engine, and you look at the cylinder wall finish, and the tolerances, and you think about longevity. Well, the oil consumption on some of these engines at 40 or 50,000 miles is horrible. But the oil consumption when it was brand new is awesome. Well, they test them when they're new. So when you're behind that Audi that looks pretty new and it's smoking, that thing's eating over a quart of oil every 1,000 miles. What are the emissions like?
Yeah.
But it's going to be dead and cut up and going back to China in another year. And it's just a recycling business we're in with automobiles.
Yeah, there's like an instant, I know the new Kias are like almost instant obsolescence of just engines are going like crazy. And that's where I almost think the EPA went too far, where they've basically ruined the industry completely, because if you leave a car company to its own devices long enough, I imagine you just end up with a bunch of really efficient cars, because that's what the consumer wants. Yeah. That's what my mom wants. That's what my...
No, that's a great point. But we're not, hey, listen, to everybody's defense, this is the first time we're doing this. Every single year that goes by is our first time, and we don't learn very well. There's a lot of problems that exist that are hundreds of years old. Mm-hmm. We're just stupid animals.
Yeah, and I think we're really tough to change on a lot of this stuff because it's so embedded. You can't really change cars all that drastically. It's all so embedded in society that
you can.
You can't make
Europe
a huge swing.
When you go to Europe and you look at a bunch of small turbo diesel, manual transmission, 45 miles per gallon vehicles, they're doing it. When you come to America and Susie has to have an expedition to go to Target, or they buy a vehicle that weighs over this amount because the tax break is there, so then Susie's got a Suburban, and it's getting 12 miles per gallon, it's killing tires, nobody's thinking through, we're America. We're not thinking in efficiency because gas is cheap. Even when we bitch about gas, it's still cheap compared to a lot of other places. Now in California, when you're paying $6.79 or something, it's it stings.
Yeah, but I've always often said that about Teslas too. I'm like, if you want the most efficient vehicle, it's not 6,000 pounds, no matter what it runs on.
You buy a Prius.
Prius has been around for since 2009 or something.
It's really good. I mean, I don't want to.
They're pretty proven.
Yeah, I don't want to. Brett's girl Tia, she said you cannot buy a Prius, but I'm like, it's pretty good. It gets 50 miles per gallon everywhere you go. But it's I think that we will evolve into probably diesel hybrid for efficiency. The thing that they're doing now with EV, it's just dumb, because if you cared about efficiency, you wouldn't have 1,000 horsepower EVs. A regular EV eats as much power in a day as a house. Mm-hmm. So then you start looking at traffic and start thinking about impact on the electrical grid. It doesn't work. If you wanted it good, you'd fire the engine up. The engine would go to a speed. It would run the electric. It would get phenomenal mileage, just like they run those big cargo ships. They're diesel electric.
Well, that's how trains are.
Sure, that's the way to do it.
It makes the most sense, and I always joke because Prius had it right, and everybody made fun of them, and now everybody's like, "Oh, diesel hybrid is the way to go," and it's like, yeah, but you hated when Prius did it.
Yeah, when Gia started driving, we had I bought a Civic Si to put in the house. That was going to be her first ride, and she's like, "I don't even care. You're the one in the cars," and I bought a Prius home. I said, "Take that thing around the block." She came back. She's like, it doesn't have a soul. I said, mm-hmm.
It's an appliance.
It's an appliance. It is an appliance.
It is just
it's a
an
good.
appliance.
It's a very good appliance.
It is. Yeah, it's just as exciting as using your washing machine, and that's the goal. It shouldn't be any more exciting than putting your dishes
Man,
away.
imagine if that's the life you live, and you're okay with it. You know, like the character Will Ferrell plays in The Other Guys with the Prius.
Yeah, the wooden gun.
He could have no understanding of what it feels like to let go of the button, but I bet he would enjoy it. I bet if you could take some Prius guys out to the track and say, just don't be scared. Let go of the button. Thing's going to shift itself. Don't hit those things on the side. Stop down there. They'd have a pretty good time.
I would imagine most would. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I always think back to like the astronauts back in the day. They're Corvette guys because like Chevy gave them Corvettes because it was like,
Yeah.
you're a Corvette guy now. That's
Yeah.
how it works. And it's like the whole concept was like the thrill seekers were thrill seekers all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's
none
funny.
of them had Priuses.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's you got to have a set, man. If you don't have a set, you're probably going to just be an inside cat your whole life.
Yeah.
You know?
And to ride a rocket is probably way more extreme than anything any of us have ever done.
Yeah.
To get on like a Saturn V rocket and be like, okay, next stop, space.
Yeah, I don't think I got stuff to do still. I don't want to be riding a rocket.
I think we're getting close to like the option of riding rockets to the space station, though.
I'm going to stay back.
You're
and,
not far from the Space Coast. You see how much they go up now.
I tell you what, you can tell me all about it. I think it's very profound what the men that have been to space say looking back at the Earth. If you've not listened or read about that, it's worth checking into because it's supposedly a pretty neat scene looking at the planet. But there's a lot for me to do right here still, so I'm just going to hang out here.
No interest in Mars.
Nah. I'm good, man. I like the regular stuff we got going on.
Yeah, just piston engines and simplicity and
Yep.
where is your so a little bit more on the EPA stuff, I guess. Where's your take on most electric then? Because electric is really good. It has torque right away, but where you get it is pretty much the end of the line. So for gearheads, it's kind of a tough sell.
I am a couple things, and one of them would be a very environmentally conscious person. I really love nature. Like where I live is beautiful, and I respect it. I don't mind manufacturing things that the earth can digest. So if you're working in oil, the earth can eat it. The earth will digest that oil. I mean, there's a fungus that will eat crude oil spills. The earth can eat what comes out of the earth, right?
Yeah.
You get into plastics and the mining of batteries, you're damaging the planet on a timeline that you can't even really understand. And if there wasn't so much money involved, they wouldn't let it happen. Because you're literally converting areas into scorched earth. And while you're in the middle of creating those areas of scorched earth, there's an island of plastic floating in the Pacific Ocean. And we are still using plastic. We're dumbasses.
Yeah, I don't think
So the EV thing, it doesn't really fit for me because the earth can't eat that stuff. When you and I are, like everything that's here can go back into the earth. That's not plastic. The battery game, man, it's tricky.
Yeah, there's so much of it per car too. Like a cell phone is like one thing, but like there's so much of it per car. Like I see like foreign, like third world countries where they're all on scooters.
Yeah.
I'm like they would be really good off with electric scooters instead of like two-stroke putting out a bunch of like smog right into the air.
Yeah.
But one person having enough battery in their car for 50 scooters is probably not the best
Well, you'd make small
use of cobalt.
Yeah, you'd make small vehicles. Well, hey, listen, in the mining thing, the conditions in the mines and the humanity or lack of in those situations, like I think a lot of it is oil has fueled a lot of growth and a lot of wars and a lot of economies for a long time. But the guys that have their money in oil They got it in oil. The guys that have their money in EV, it could be a different group of people getting new money. Just like when a shop goes from working on Subarus to working on GTRs to working on Lambos, they're getting that new money. So a lot of the stuff with EV, it's new money. They don't care that it's slavery. They don't care that people die. They don't, none of that stuff matters. Just like, it's money in its unregulated, destructive form. That's all.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's tough to see happen because, you know, I've watched enough oil spills, but even those they disappear fairly quickly. Like even in 2008 when the Deepwater Horizon deal happened.
Well, they sunk it all to the bottom.
And that's pretty much where it was to begin with anyways. It was close.
Yeah. But again, on a long enough timeline, the Earth can eat it.
Yeah. Well, it's already there.
Like have you read about Chernobyl? At Chernobyl, there's a fungus eating the radioactive fallout. Like a fungus. Mm-hmm. The Earth can eat a lot of stuff. Plastics probably like over the line.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people, the protest against nuclear power is crazy in the same route because of places like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and stuff. Like, they're pretty safe.
Well, you can't...
Fukushima.
You can't live without it. Oh, Fukushima's a rough one. But we don't even talk about it.
California still gets fallout from that.
It'll be thousands of years.
Millions.
Yeah.
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, like, you know, going back to the EPA, if the EPA was trying to move the needle, they would say that we have to get off of one-time use plastics. And a lot of economies would shrink, like this entire industry. Because then you can't get enough glass and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, I don't think that they were in our industry to stay because we don't have enough money. You have to be able to put some really big fines in to be able to get enough money to feed the machine. They need to catch Volkswagen in their act. Mm-hmm. I think Cummins just got popped recently.
Yeah.
And there was a big number tied to it. So, you know, I think if you're respectful of the environment and you don't mess with new stuff and you're not a total jackass about it, you probably I could just be in the industry and be all right.
Well, like PFI Speed, you know, Brent, he got hit for selling like 50 Hondadas.
I can't make sense out of it.
It's like, how did they pinpoint him? I don't understand any of that.
I think that the only way I can make sense of it is if someone that had some power in that area got a beam on him and they made it their thing. You know, like when you have someone that really has something to prove, there's almost nothing you can do to stop them legally. So I think that he may have been up against someone that had something to prove because the guy is a freaking gem. He's cool. He's fun. He's easy. He's out there playing with his kids. It's beautiful. You know what I mean? Like what dad doesn't want to go to the racetrack with their kids and their kids are racing too? And you're going to pick on that guy? Come on, man.
I know he's got like 5 employees. I'm like, that's the guy you go for? You know, like one of the...
I think that
like,
he...
like a reasonably sized...
That's like a fairly liberal tone state. He may have just pissed the wrong person off.
Yeah.
We may never know.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if there is any like Freedom of Information Act or anything. Like how did that come about? I mean, I know they just say, oh, you don't get to know. Too bad. Sorry.
Well, there's... in the height of it, there was a room full of people on computers Googling catchphrases and looking for targets. You know? And they just call you. They say, hey, man, I know where you are. I know what you do. I want to see your books. I want to see their books.
Yeah.
I want to see their books. Then they gather all the information up and they calculate how much money it's worth to go after. And I think in our case, there just wasn't enough money. They need billions of dollars to move the needle because they're going to take those fines and try to do something good with it. You know what I mean? Like it's not like they take the fines and take the money home. Maybe they're going to take those fines and go fix a problem somewhere else with it. You know what I mean? Or maybe it just gets eaten up in government. I don't know. I'd like to think that the people that are doing their job with passion, that they're sure they're doing it for the greater good.
Yeah.
You know, but there's so much money involved in once the numbers come for something, like the numbers are just way more powerful than we give them credit for.
Yeah, I mean, talking about $billions of dollars in fines is unfathomable numbers. Like, making $1 million a year to most is crazy, and you're talking about a company writing a check for $1 billion. Like,
and I tell you what, I almost had $1 million once, and all I could think about is that scene from Office Space where he says, "What would you do if you had $1 million?" I'm kidding, but I'm sure the thought would arise.
yeah, I mean, of course, who wouldn't? I mean, it's like,
man.
but then like, I would, I don't know if like you were in the situation where $1 million now or like your company type of thing, but from what I've heard, when people stop having like an active source of income and just have a lump sum, they're like, oh no, like this was like an active source of income that was every month, and now it's a lump sum.
I tell you, I was doing pretty good, and I had just started to get to the point of really making peace, and I didn't worry about money. I wasn't rich, but I had enough. My bills were paid. I'm not balancing my checkbook. I'm playing with cars. Wife's happy with it. She wants a better car, but because she's BMW. Once you have BMW, it's hard to get back. But I thought that I was just about to hit, like a real deal cruise control, having a good time part of my life, because I had put a lot of work in on the front half.
Yeah.
And when things changed, it was like in The Empire Strikes Back when the frickin' Millennium Falcon doesn't go into hyperspeed and he goes, "Oh shit, we got a problem." I'm like, last year I was like, "Oh shit, I got a problem." I thought I had a problem before, but now I have an actual problem. And then when the stress of earning came back into my life, because I had, I was enjoying the success of the early work. And the stress of earning came into my life. I was like, what is that feeling? It took me a few days, and I'm like, oh, I remember that feeling.
Like your tree that you planted finally bared fruit.
Yeah.
Like it really had some fruits on it.
But then it got cut down,
Yeah.
But it's cool because now I'm not afraid of it, man. When I was in my 20s, I was afraid of it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I would work so much because I thought it was going to make a difference. And I won't do that again.
Do you think the cruise control would have eaten you up and been worse in the long run?
No, man, listen, I drank a lot in my 30s. I know I grew up around a pretty rough crowd. I know the things that take a person down, and I know the things that bring a person up. So, I've lived at the same weight since I was 20. I can meter myself pretty well.
Yeah.
And at this age, I can meter myself really well, where it wasn't going to get into a situation where I was going to fall into the spoils of excess and have it take my character apart, because I already had been tricked. I thought when I make $100,000 a year, surely that'll be enough. And then 200 came. And I said, well, surely this is enough. And then when 300 came, I said, man, something's wrong. Like, I can't keep running for these numbers. I just want to enjoy my life.
Yeah.
I understand some people want to be rich people. I just want to be happy, man. I've had enough. I really just want to have a good time with my time left. And I can make some money. I can move some money around. Money will come into my life. I'll work for people. I'll give them what they want. They'll get it from a good guy. I'll be fine. But I want to enjoy the process. Mm-hmm. Because if I get to live a while longer, like one of my goals, like the only thing left I got is I want to talk to my kid when she's grown. I want I want to go to lunch one day with my kids when they're adults.
I walk her down the aisle. Type
Sure,
of thing.
man.
Like that kind of like, you know,
Sure.
one of those milestones
I want to
of
see
a dad,
those
I feel
things,
like.
right? But like to do the rest of my life for money, nah, man, I'm good. I don't have any the way that it came undone at Real Street, it was perfect in many ways because I was ready for the lesson that I was fixing to learn. And the lesson is like, you don't need all that. I don't need all that. I could have left with a 6-pack of guys and started another company overnight. And I'm like, man, I want to look around. You know, I want to look around and see what I should be doing with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So right now I've just been like in slow motion. You know, my wife's nervous because she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm fine. You know, like I ride my bicycle. I come home and I hop on my bicycle and I ride around and I'm just happy, you know?
Yeah, because like, you know, I've talked to some people that are like, well, like I got success and then I pushed all the chips into the table back into the center and you know, rolled the dice again on like the next thing. And that's always crazy to me as well because maybe that's more of like a drug.
I can't.
That's more of like a dopamine hit.
Sit with people that are dying. Go sit with people that are dying and listen to them talk about what's important about life.
Yeah.
Like everyone has those stupid cliches like, can't take it with you, blah, 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 blah. No, go sit with someone that's dying. Listen to them. And I did that with a couple of friends. And I'm like, all right, now I see what this needs to be like. And it can't just be a money game. I mean, guys my age have heart attacks. Like Joe died at the track. You know, Joe Bushy.
Yeah.
I just had like a 45-minute conversation with him. It was a gorgeous conversation. I was having so much fun with him.
I talked to him that day also.
And then he's dead. And
Pushing his car into the winner's circle.
Dude, and it's like, man, that could happen to any of us. So why spend time, you know, like I get it, you got to work. Fine. But it can't be everything. And the numbers can't be everything. You have to respect the numbers, just like you have to respect calories. If you eat enough stuff that's bad for you, you're going to get fat. And that's going to cause you some other types of problems.
Yeah.
So you have to meter.
Pain now or pain later.
Yeah, you just have to respect the things that are, you know, it's no different than car engines. If you run it too hard, it's going to break. Well, I've been running this thing pretty hard, you know, for a good amount of time. And now I'm not going to run it hard anymore.
I think it's also very common in the car industry I know so many people, you know, my friend Jeremy Formato, very close with him. He is like you know, when he's like working, he's like you know, gets there crack of dawn. He's there till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. tuning cars because like that's his work window is like excess in bursts. And it's like, yeah, it always feels like, man, you're being hard on yourself for like these like bursts, like up and downs.
I don't want to do that. If I have to do it because my family requires it, I'll do it. But I would rather find a more livable pace and just enjoy the process.
Yeah. Well, I think about, you know, I'm talking to you a lot about this also because like I think about it with myself. I was with the company for 10 years. Built the company, and no longer with the company.
Right.
And there's no animosity. One of my best friends.
Yeah.
But you don't do the same thing forever.
No, and
it's an interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the future held.
Right.
You point blank asked me one day.
Yeah.
At the track, we were standing at the starting line, and you're like, "What do you do when all this YouTube stuff stops?" And I was like, I don't know. I'm 20 years old. I don't even. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I guess I'll just figure it out.
Yeah. Now, it's weird for me, though, because if I walk into a Home Depot or something like that, somebody's like, man, I love your videos. Man, I love your videos. Or, you know, like, I watched, like, I go to the bank the other day. I went to the bank to, like, unravel some old stuff that was work-related. And the dude at the bank is like, the clutch valve. And I'm like, oh, but I got to, you know, it's really helped me laugh at it. because how my father would have handled the situation would have been way different, and he probably would have gone to prison for it. But for me, I'm just like, man, like I don't want to death is real, heart attacks are real, cancer is real. Numbers, I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't let them rule, especially knowing that there's never enough of them. I don't want to let that rule. I just want to I love cars, man. Like I have an opportunity to be passionate with work, and that is a blessing that not a lot of people ever get to love their work. And I love my work. The other day I woke up on Sunday morning, I went to work, I put a 2J together. I had everything measured, mocked up, cleaned, ready. I get a cup of coffee, I go to the shop, I put it together, it's 3 o'clock, I hop in my car, and I'm driving home and I'm like happy.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. That's my game. If I can play that game, and I'll just run my clock out, and it's all good, man. I want to get some young guys involved. I want that, the guys that still need to make the money, the guys that are where I was, and they're still playing that part of the game. It's like a board game. They're over there, I'm over here, whatever. We'll figure it out. Get some of those guys. I want to get some guys like you to come out and go to El Mirage and go to Bonneville, because if enough of us go, the event stays strong. And if the event goes away, we'll probably never get it back. When you lose a racetrack, it's not like 3 of them pop up. It's not like a Starbucks. Starbucks, they'll put 3 in one intersection. Racetracks aren't like that. We have to really be involved in our racetracks. What Victor has done and what Ozzy has done, and I'm sorry I forget his name, but the man that owns South Georgia, those dudes are racetrack owners.
Raul, yeah, he just...
It's badass, But, the Bonneville's another racetrack. El Mirage is another racetrack.
But that also is different because it needs to be passed down. It's, you know what I mean? Because
they all need to be passed down.
But racetracks are like a real estate that somebody owns. Bonneville to me is it's like.
Oh yeah, there's a certain amount of American heritage.
That's what I mean.
If racetracks really started to dry up, we'd find more people out there racing.
Yeah.
On the surfaces.
But it's also like a location versus a drag strip could be anywhere.
Yeah, but it can't be anywhere because population density comes for them.
Yeah. I mean, especially in Florida, there's not.
Well, you can't say especially in anymore.
It's very true.
I mean, when I saw that track hoe ripping the tower down at Georgia, the picture of that happening, man, that hurt. I was a kid. Go to that racetrack and get to race in Atlanta. You go to Bowling Green, you get to race it. You get to go around and experience different tracks and experience the culture at each track. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So any racetrack is very hard to replace. I don't anyone that says that's a shitty track. Try having no track. There's no such thing as a shitty track. You may be having a shitty day. You may have missed your tune-up. You may have just made a mistake. You may have hit a bald spot. You may have but it's not a shitty track. It's a racetrack, and you better be happy that thing's there.
Like Moroso, or it was most recently Palm Beach.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It still hasn't even been torn down.
They're talking
it's been so long now. I don't even know if you can bring it back.
We could go hours because we're on the cusp of starting to talk about the economics of it, and we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Progress and growth are a lot of short-lived prophecies, because you're going to build a bunch of neighborhoods and you lose, they would, the people that are in it for the money would cut down every single blade of grass if they could. And it's they'll just scorched earth.
Yeah.
You gotta, you gotta mitigate population density.
That's always the tough side too, is how do you balance the, on the government side, how do you balance you can't build homes Like, how do you balance like telling people what they can and can't do so aggressively? Like,
Can't, because it starts on such a the contractor is taking the contractor starts going to the Rotary meetings. He meets the commissioners. They start going to lunch, and the rest is business. So unless you have someone that's taking a stand for different areas, and the areas are protected, or the town is historical, and they're not going to put a 6-story parking garage because the place can't manage the parking spots already. Like, you gotta have some forward thinking. You gotta be thinking in larger blocks of time. But most people are only thinking in a block of time that may be as long as their life. If you had to do city planning over 100 years, maybe it would look different.
it definitely would, but there's no way to really have that forethought. I mean, it's so
because it's money, baby.
yeah, it's so tough to really think
Yeah.
100 years in the future on a city planning, because like 100 years ago, what we needed was so different.
I mean, air conditioning alone changed Florida. People
Yeah.
didn't live in Florida because there was no air conditioning.
I mean, 100 years ago, like airports weren't even that needed. How many people were really flying in and out of
I
like?
don't know if any. I don't even know when that commercial started. But yeah, it's just.
It was only like 60 years from like the Wright brothers to like commercial airlines to like, it was like 65 years from like Wright brothers flying for like 100 feet to dropping a nuclear bomb. It was like the shortest blip of time.
Yeah, it's scary when you think about our current, the current behavior in our leadership.
It's very scary to think.
I don't know if you saw my shirt or not, but
Al Bundy, yeah, I like that. Yeah,
we're trying to get some real problem solvers. Or the Chick-fil-A management team. I'll take either one.
I'm reading a book right now on nuclear war, and it's even more terrifying than you would imagine. How quickly decisions have to be made, and the fact that basically they're handed what they describe as a Denny's menu and say, there's a nuclear bomb coming from this country, you can bomb this one, or this one, and they're just pictures. And it's like you have 5 minutes to decide.
I would say that level of weaponry will only be countered by technology. Like if you want to talk about destructive forces, the nukes, depending on the scale of them, again, the Earth can figure it out over the course of thousands of years. But you've got to not kill the ocean, and you've got to not kill the dirt. Because if you kill the dirt and you kill the ocean, the gig's up. Well, all this electronics and battery mining, and you're trying to change this game in a way that I don't think the place is suited for. It's like you're trying to put the wrong engine in a car. It's just like not a good idea. Sure, you could do it, but it's stupid. And you have to, I think that you'd have to have people that were thinking over larger blocks of time to be able to mitigate that. Nobody even talks about topsoil. Like the erosion of topsoil, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
You know, like we're just dumb people. We're not, the collective isn't that smart. I mean, we're not, we're just humans.
Well, the collective gotten worse too as we've gotten more divided. So we're even more collectively unintelligent because we're so divided. And there's so many of us. I mean, I don't know if you remember the Georgia Guidestones thing that came down. Remember when they tore those down? There was like Guidestones in Georgia that said how to rebuild a civilization in case of nuclear bombs. And
Oh, wow.
it said, keep the human population at 500 million. It's manageable. And
I have to read about that. That sounds interesting.
they actually took them down. They brought an excavator and they knocked them down. Some millionaire put them up, and it said how to rebuild civilization in 8 different languages too. And it was like had the North Star and all this
Man,
stuff.
I like to read about that guy.
It's very interesting. It said 500 million max population.
Now you're really geeking out.
We're like 8 million people right now. 8 billion people right now.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah, but there's a lot of areas that if you spread it out, it would be okay.
No, we could sustain, but I think it's a lot. But I don't think, they say we're not going to hit more than like 10 billion before it starts declining.
Yeah.
we're gonna hit the peak and the drop.
Man, I can't zoom out that far. You know, you have to let some things just run their course. And when you read about the youth, and you know, certain countries are behind on population now, you know, kind of works itself out.
Well, the
as long
US
as you don't
is falling.
have groups of people that are strategically overbreeding, because then eventually you can wash, you know, like the Indians didn't really disappear overnight, but we did manage to
Yeah,
do a thing.
kind of just worked them out slowly.
Yeah, the numbers are small.
Yeah.
You know, you go out west, you'll see some Indians, but when you're here, you know, you just don't. It's not as often. You know?
So on that shelf right there, you see there's a little rock.
Yep.
It's a 450 million year old fossil of a trilobite, and then right behind it is a cutout of a nuclear power plant. So I try to keep those two things together because they're very.
Those where the rods go in.
That's the cooling fins, and it's part of the cooling. But it's nice to keep those two things together because they're very weird, because one's ancient history and one's like the most modern technology we've ever had.
Yeah.
And it's a
It's contrast.
it's a weird
good.
thought of the two, and eventually we'll all be those fossils.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm lucky.
No, there's a kids movie called Turbo, the snail.
My son loved that movie.
When they're at the safety meetings and a bird plucks one off, that's how it is. Because like whenever a person passes, everyone gets like emotional about it, and then 6 months goes by, and only the people that are really close to that person are still like mourning the loss or processing the loss, but life goes on.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's like, to me, I don't have the time to get caught up in like a bunch of crap. I just want to enjoy the process. I probably said that 100 times.
No, and it's
But
really,
like,
really important.
It's all you can do. It's all you can do. Like, no amount of anxiety is going to change the outcome of a situation. So
But
why
when did you
bother?
figure all that out? When did that really start to set in?
Man, I had like the longest midlife crisis known to man. When I turned 40, I thought like, I wonder if it's going to happen to me. And then it happened. And all the dumb bullshit that men do as they process midlife, the thoughts were in my head. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I mean, it was like a movie to me to watch the process. And then when I got through all of that and I started to really kind of get my bearings straight, things changed with work. And that was a really big eye opener for me.
That's when it really started to hit, though, of like what was important. Because like,
Yeah, it's like,
I always wonder like when it starts to really set in.
no, that was it for me. Like, you know, I lost my parents, and you know, that was rough, but I knew it was coming. And when I gained my daughter, I wasn't prepared for how incredible it was to have a child, or is to have a child. Because with Gia, I got her, she was 11. We didn't get all that bonding, you know? So I'm just like the dude that showed up. And I joke with her all the time about, we have a good thing going on. Like, it's fun, but I wasn't there for those younger years.
Yeah, you didn't bottle feed her.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, man, I think the sit with the dying thing, you know, I changed my game, because when you listen to a man that's had a successful career and raised a healthy family, and he's respected amongst his peers, and he doesn't have a money problem, and he's done with all his projects, and he knows he's out of time, that man will share with you things that you need to know. And then it's so much easier to not get caught up in crap. It's just crap. You know, like our culture is like immersed in the crap. We can't tell shit from Shinola. The internet and all the drama and all the this and all the that, and people screw people over money, and people screw, you know, like hurt children, hurt women. Like, it's a big mess. You got to zoom out if you want to keep your shit together.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about the information age is getting worse and worse, where there's so much coming at people at the same time, and like,
Yeah, they can only process so much.
and it's just even like for me, it's like there's so much that I would like to be able to take
Right.
in, and like I am just like there's a max level of it.
Right. If you look at how the mind is structured, if your mind has 100% of duty cycle available, you have a healthy mind. 50% of it is out the window in visual processing, and your consciousness is trying to identify, is that a threat or not? Like, a bear is a threat. Okay. But once your mind understands that something's not a threat, it falls into the foreground and you start looking for something else. You know, you're still an animal. Well, the internet, where you're like, through your eyeballs, you're constantly taking in large amounts of data, and not all of it is positive, and all you need to do is turn that off. Like, I have friends that are like bent up on politics, bent up on the news, but they're choosing to use all of that duty cycle to screw their heads up.
Yeah, it's like it's not forced either, and we're doing it to ourselves.
Oh yeah, but you have to get a hobby, play with cars. You got a car with some boost, it's gonna break, okay? And now you don't have that time to scroll because you're working on your car to try to get back to the track. So maybe cars are the answer.
It definitely could unite us for sure.
My uncle lives by the track and he bitches like a little girl. The noises that came from the top fuel cars were terrifying. I said, did you go to the races? No. I said, man, you should have gone.
I could hear it from here. I'm
Dude,
far.
I told Victor he should have like a senior citizen day where they get to go out there and line up,
Yeah.
like within reason. I mean, Sam's gonna go out there and wax everybody's ass, but he
course.
could be the teacher. But have some fun. You live next to a racetrack. Use the place.
No.
Go meet some friends.
I think about that too with like even the younger people that have never been to a racetrack, and they don't realize that they could just go make a pass in whatever they own. And I constantly want to shake sense into people. It's like, it doesn't matter what you own. You can go make a pass in it.
When you
The
go,
slower the better.
No, it's a social center. Like at Maryland, during World Cup, when someone suspects that there's fluid on the track, and one of the 100 people jump onto the track to check it, and the woman's dragging her hand, and the crowd is like, ooh, ooh, and she puts her hands up and it's dry, and everyone cheers. Like, that's a vibe, man.
Yeah.
That, like, people need to go experience that, because that is a really good situation for anyone. Like, people need that thing. Doesn't take you out. It doesn't take you out. It can't actually stimulate your mind.
Yeah.
It stimulates your inner, like, Jabba the Hutt. It's like trying to eat a bowl of ice chips for nourishment. That it's not in there. You got to get out and live.
There's so many, the best people, but there's so many good people at racetracks. Like you
Yeah.
go to like a TX2K or like, you know, shout out to like a Peter Block or like a Jason Miller who have set up these events, and obviously Victor.
Yeah.
Which just like are the draw of like the best people around the country. It's just it's a really special, and I've often said that I think that's what the current world is missing, is the sense of community and the sense of knowing your.
But racetracks
The
are those
people-
centers.
Yeah,
like
but it's
Ozzy
about
puts
it.
on those. Ozzy puts on events at his place, the Orlando Speed World. And families show up, and the cars, they're not on the level of World Cup, but it's probably a car the guy's been racing for 15 years. It's got a Liberty equalizer in it. He's going to go out there and let the clutch out and go a low 7 or a 6 in some Starlet that's just riding like a bull. And the place has a vibe. You know, the racetracks are community centers, for sure.
There are few of the last left of like gathering of
Well, you
people
have,
in person.
Have you been in a sprint car race?
No.
Bro. I've been, my buddy Red, I go to Bonneville with him. He's my neighbor. He was a sprint car racer, and he's a different dude. He is, like, sprint car racers are different people. They're bull riders. It's like a mechanical bull. And I've been rapping with this guy, that races sprint cars. He's a young guy, but he's like the best guy at it right now. I think it's David Gravel is his last name. He is hot. Like, he's like doing it, man. He's winning. And you watch him turn the thing in with a wing on it, and you just on dirt keep it floored, and the wing allows you to get around the corner, and there's dirt flying in the air. Like you go to like circle tracks, they give it up. I got to drive a sprint car once, and I don't think I ever put the throttle over like 20%. It was like a lot to process. So it's not just drag racing, and then there's rodeo. You know, if you go out west, there's a lot of horse stuff. Like, it's everywhere. It's just, you kind of sound like we're in a downturn, and I don't think we are.
Yeah,
I think
I'm a bit of a nihilist.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You have to understand that the reality is what you make it. And there's no shortage of things to bitch about. I mean, I love like that one woman that was like screaming no when Trump got elected. You know, the one with the short hair. It's like it became a meme.
Yep.
Like, the pain she felt in her mind was real. But did she have anything to worry about? Probably not.
She's probably fine now.
I want to ask her, like, hey, did that go as bad as you thought it did? Because like you looked pretty upset. Like,
It was a bad day.
Was that worth it?
Yeah, I don't really get too worried about that. I like about politics and who's going to be in office. Like, I know that, you know, the world is going to keep on spinning in the end of the day.
Yep.
Things may get better or worse. I mean, it's kind of a common theme through history that things go pretty bad for a lot of people.
Well, there's a lot of money in the market. I think that once things tighten up, you'll have people's values change again.
That's what I worry more about is economical shifts, and I've read too much history probably as well, where
But where does the money come from?
it gets printed, it gets made. It's a natural
So-
resource somehow.
But it's not. It's the money's just money. They make it. So all the stuff that's at play that surrounds the money, so far out of your hands.
But that's where I get more worried is decisions that were made long ago, you know, in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s that are starting to catch up.
Oh, it's way worse than that.
That are like, you know, it's like a freight train that it's like, it's gonna hit us. Maybe I'm a little farther down the tracks when it hits me, but it's gonna eventually hit. And I'm like, with a kid, like with a 7-month-old, I'm like,
Sure.
man, I don't want it to hit him.
It'll when we came off the gold standard for the second time,
Nixon.
we made a terrible mistake. And then when we pushed manufacturing overseas because it was dirty, we made a bigger mistake that we couldn't even possibly. My wife was born in a village that you went down to the lake and you got water. And they gardened, and it was fine. And then manufacturing came to China. And if you look at what has happened in 50 years in China, like if people really understood the scale, that's why they don't want Chinese cars to come here. Chinese cars come here, we're out of the car business. The Chinese are trying to build a railroad to go to UK just to bring cars into the UK. This like China has too much manufacturing, but if we were really concerned, maybe we'd stop buying less stuff. I mean, we got a little bit of a flick in the nuts during COVID when we couldn't get stuff. But a lot of the things we buy, it's just stuff. Like how much of our financial resources are we spending on things that we need versus stuff that's going to end up in a garbage can in a week?
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff in this room is like not necessary to my life. Not like.
Well, what worse is the stuff that you only use for a minute.
Yeah.
Because then you're just making, you go back to garbage.
But there's almost no way around that stuff because unless you get fully totalitarian,
No,
you
see,
control every single person's.
No. Bro, the 5 and 1, they got the guns, but we got the numbers, right? The people start thinking a little bit more about what they should do with their money and what they should do with their time and what they should consume. And if people got a little bit smarter, you could slow it because government can't slow it. That everybody would push back on that, But if people said, you know what, I'm going to stop buying that shit, they'd stop making that shit. They only make the shit because we buy the shit.
that concept right there has brought me closer to Christianity, I would say, because a lot of the rules of it are like kind of not the rules, but a lot of the teachings are like just what you need. You
Sure.
know, like a lot of the sins are like, you know, greed,
Oh.
gluttony, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah. They're all there.
like the things that we do.
Yeah.
And you're like, if I just followed that a little better.
Nah, the book is good, man. There's a reason why that book's been around for so long. And I think that the biggest thing that you stand to gain with a respect for God is peace of mind. And you cannot buy peace of mind. And every time you do something wrong or you do something that breaks this, you know, the 7 deadly sins, you chip away at yourself in a way that in the moment you don't realize. You can't cheat people. You can't hurt people because it dims your bulb inside. That's why I think a lot of people walk around with their head down because they've beaten themselves down over time in a way that was so slow that they don't even know they did it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why the happy people stand out. Whenever Brett came to Real Street, I was like, what the hell is that, dude? I was like, because I met him at a race and I said, hey man, like I'd like the opportunity to work with you. You got it. He was like, okay. A couple years later, opportunity comes up. He comes into work. He's happy. He's doing it. A task is just a thing. He just does the thing. You know, like managing the car, just does the thing. You know, he's a happy person.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he's a happy person based off of the decisions he's made. Well, a lot of people don't position themselves like that. They position themselves in a situation where they say like, this happened to me, and their past is their alibi, and forget it if they're involved in self-help because now they're just jerking their minds off. You have no peace of mind. So the book is good for peace of mind.
Yeah, I think, you know, even like George Washington said, like the Constitution only makes sense if people also follow the Bible, basically,
Yeah.
He was like, it doesn't work if people don't have self-accountability.
Yeah, and
It needs the two.
Right, but then you had money coming to organized religion, and there's a bunch of like shit that went down.
I'm fully
and a bunch
against
of wars
organized.
and all that stuff. So it's easy to let what man has done jade you, but if you get down to it in its purest form, the way that you interact with a human being when the human being doesn't want anything, doesn't need anything from you. They just want you to be happy and they want to be in the place that you're in, like children meeting on a playground. When your child is 4, you're going to go to a playground. He's going to meet his best friend. They're going to play like crazy. They're going to walk away and never see each other again and not even care.
Yep.
And that would be pretty cool if we could do that more as adults. But there's money involved, and there's egos involved, and there's technology involved, and women involved.
And all of that, I was taught in years of religious education to stay away from, you know, ego and money and all that. And it's like, man,
That's powerful stuff,
they
man.
really knew what they were talking about back then when I was
yeah.
freaking 12 years old and couldn't listen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I was too naive or dumb to listen.
Right, but what if you're lucky enough to know now?
I think I am.
Okay.
I like to try.
Yeah, just keep going.
Yeah.
It's all good, man.
I like to try to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just get so frustrated with the direction of things, and I didn't look at it the same way before I had a kid. And now that I have a kid, I'm like, man, like,
Do you cut your own grass?
yeah,
Do you wash your own car?
yeah,
Get your pool ready. Like, just do the things you can do.
I know.
If I know what it's like to be stuck in your head with those kind of thoughts. That's a waste of time.
Like my grandpa, my grandpa told me about living in the Depression and growing up in the Depression.
Sounds tough.
And like, he wouldn't let a piece of food go to waste at any point because that was his life. And that's what I witnessed. I witnessed a man that he was so like, we're so polar opposites from his world because we are so active consumer and he was so like,
Would he yell
not
at you
consumer.
if he knew you're spending?
Oh yeah, I mean he wouldn't yell at you.
No,
like,
would he yell at you today? Like
Not
like,
even, he was okay with other people spending. He was just like himself. He was like, I don't spend. Like, I wear the same pair of shoes until I can't anymore. And like,
Yeah.
I wear the same t-shirts until I can't anymore. He was like, didn't spend at all, but never seemed to judge anybody else for spending.
Yeah.
Which was very impressive.
I
Because
spend most of my money on cars.
me too, but my wife doesn't spend any of her
Yeah.
money really on cars.
Yeah. No, if you have to edit anything out of this interview, you have to go back and take away those Mustang figures, because if she finds out. Oh man.
What's the joke? I worry I'm gonna die someday, and my wife will sell my cars for what she thinks they're
what
worth.
she thinks they're worth. Oh man.
Yeah, that's a.
Nah, it's cool. She does what she does,
I got a 2J, so I know cost on things, and they're not cheap. You think 6 things would be cheaper, but it turns out.
They're still cheap engines to have fun with.
Yes.
You could build a, $10,000 or $15,000 2J, and if you just don't screw up, you can have a ton of fun with it.
I think that Dart engine looks really promising too.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them at the shop. I'm really excited about it. I've spent one of the men that I spend time with in California is a pattern maker, which he did work for Cosworth and Chevrolet and Ford Performance and all of this. Like, he's a pattern maker, and we talk a lot about castings, and he's taught me a lot of stuff about castings. And I got to looking at that Dart block, and I think that for the first round, for version 1, I think they did a really good job. And I've been harvesting cores now since around the beginning of the year. It's a lot of work to find enough cores.
Yeah.
And sometimes I only buy virgin cores because I want to know what I'm selling a person. Mm-hmm. And I can't still protect them from gross overheating, but I pick pretty good cores. But the opportunity to sell the Dart engines and not have to core hunt is very attractive to me. I think the only thing that I would say I would change today on the Dart engine, if I could, is the weight.
I was thinking that same thing.
Now, there has been a number of racers over the years, in like sprint car guys, IMSA guys, like remove weight out of a block. It's manual work. Got to find the limits. Probably going to screw some stuff up, but you could probably take some weight out of it. But it's just money, Like, it may be cheaper to find the weight somewhere. The problem with the Supra is everything weighs about the same. Like, you take a Supra door apart, everything weighs the same. So you can't just like lose weight by taking a component off the car.
Yeah.
The heater
we're
box.
talking
The heater
50
box is not
pounds
that. No, I'm talking.
on the engine, on the block, right?
Nah, it's like 35 pounds, I think.
Okay.
It's livable.
Yeah.
It's livable, but I wish it was a little lighter. But I also know that they were trying to provide a casting that a racer could undoubtedly count on. And when you're trying to hand a monkey a hammer, he's gonna use it. So the more material, the material is the absorber of sorts, heavy rods, heavy crankshaft, heavy pistons, heavy block. It's hard to blow stuff up. Mm-hmm. It's hard to blow stuff up when it's heavy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be stronger just by re-engineering a couple things.
Have you listened to people talk about solid engines making more power?
Why would a solid engine make more power? With no water going through it?
Yes, because the sleeve doesn't balloon under the combustion pressures.
So the sleeves are actually
when you take a
shifting
sleeve,
in any way?
Yeah, man, things are on the move.
I didn't realize they were like.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of engines that when you take them apart, the sleeves have changed shape. They're getting worked. All that pressure, it has an effect on the parts you use. So, you get into a heavier casting with heavier cylinder walls and it's a full Siamese bore. Like if you ever looked at a JZ that's been run hard, it's got the X mark in the back of the cylinders where the water crossover is. That's how much it's flexing, that it changes the hone finish at that point of the block.
Yeah.
So the dart block is solid.
Do you think some of that comes from the twisting of the block?
That does influence, but I've seen guys that have really poor tuning put those marks in the bores. So I think it's just the combustion, the power level and combustion. It's funny, if you have the engine rich enough, it doesn't, I think I said it earlier, the fuel's the coolant, right? That's why you get away on ethanol what you couldn't get away on gasoline. That's why you get away on methanol what you couldn't get away on ethanol. It's just fuel, right? So if you have a gas engine, like look at a stock Evo tune. What's it do? Goes under boost, buries the wideband, right? Well, let's keep it alive. So when you have a rich mixture, things don't blow up right away. But when you start looking at the parts before they fail, you can understand how they're failing.
Yeah.
So the dart block and the additional material, things aren't going to move as much. So you're going to have a more stable environment. Like when I was racing the stock deck engine, the stock block, that those guys wanted to go 6s with it, and it had to be on an air-to-air, and it had to be on ethanol. And man, the heat was miserable inside that engine. Miserable.
Yeah.
And maybe I could do it better today than I did it, whatever that was, 4 or 5, whatever years ago. But the heat really kills them. So
That's
the fuel.
One thing we fought with my car is gets hot.
Right. What fuel's it on?
Ignite yellow.
Put it on methanol.
The fuel system is running out then at that point, so it's just kind of that cascading effect
Yeah,
of
but it's,
like
all you are is in the extended version of 20 years ago when a guy wanted to take his Mustang to the track with a supercharger. You told him, hey man, stop on the way out there and get some C10 or 104 and fill the tank up halfway with that. And you won't have to call a tow truck coming home because the fuel is cheap. Mm-hmm. So like if you're out of gasoline and you don't have the fuel system, to go right to methanol, use ethanol. This stuff works.
Yeah.
I run my Toyota on pump ethanol almost primarily, and it's awesome. I mean, things make 1,000 horsepower all the time, But if you're battling the heat, you go to methanol. Like some of those cars at Bonneville are gas cars. So I take apart the gas engine car and I take apart the methanol engine car, and I'm just looking at the whole engine. I'm like, phew, gas is not where it's at. Gas is, gas has its role, but in forced induction, alcohol is where it's at.
So I had Greg from Tile on, and we had a really interesting conversation where he made the argument that all pump gas in everywhere should be methanol. He was like, it's easier to make, it's better, it's like cheaper, it's all this stuff, and he made a pretty good argument for.
Hey, and I wouldn't argue with him except for it's highly toxic.
And you need a lot more.
I don't even care about that. It's highly toxic.
That was the only debate that Jay from Ignite had. He was like, it's just
Dude,
toxic.
I got
It's like
one of my smart friends, a guy that like doctor level guy, is like, don't get around that stuff. He just said, don't get around it. Mm-hmm. I got it in my eye one year, drag week. We were switching fuels and it like splashed up out of the thing. And, I was tired or whatever. Man, it was like 12 hours of seeing double. I'm lucky that my eye managed it because it causes blindness.
Yeah.
Like methanol is highly toxic.
I guess the IndyCar guys used to get it pretty bad.
Yeah,
when they ran methanol
It's not a viable large scale solution. Ethanol is way kinder. Ethanol isn't even like you drink this shit for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
don't drink ethanol.
Don't drink it.
Don't drink it. But it's kind of what most alcohol is.
Well, I think they actually require an additive in ethanol.
Yeah, there's a bittering.
And they do it because people would drink it. And like homeless people would drink it.
Yeah.
Because it was so cheap,
Yeah. No, it's you have to have a special license for 100 proof to leave your plant.
Yes.
It normally leaves the plant with the bitter end because alcohol for consumption is taxed differently than alcohol for fuel.
Yeah.
So the stuff that's going to your local racetrack station, it's just cheaper for it to leave the plant because they don't have to worry about people drinking it because of the bitter end.
Yeah, I've gotten lucky to have long, extensive conversations with Jay from Ignite.
Yeah.
He knows a lot about the ethanol industry, and I know you're pretty close in the ethanol industry as well.
I learned a little bit. I learned a little bit about it, and I think that it's really neat stuff. And I do believe that there's a difference between pump ethanol and race ethanol. And I've used the brands that are available. And I think that if it works for the amount of heat you're trying to manage, it's great stuff. But if you go over that, like when I put our old car on methanol, finally, when we had achieved our goal and we could now run the car on methanol, man, as soon as I started that thing up and put it in gear, I was like, oh my God, it was so much happier. It was so much happier because there's so much fuel mass. Fuel's the first coolant the cylinder sees. So if you're running a lot of fuel through the engine, not nitromethane, but fuel, methanol or ethanol, it cools it off,
So I was just reading somebody talking about volume of fuel is so much higher, though. That's where it becomes so funky, is like the amount of fuel you need per cylinder.
With methanol?
Once you get into different fuels, and that's some stuff that most people, me, one of them, don't really understand, is the amount of fuel you have to put in, because fuel takes up volume of the engine as well, and that's where it gets so weird.
Well, you have there's an energy unit that will yield when the fuel is burned. Well, methanol has less energy, but more volume, so you kind of make it up. It's like pound for pound, methanol's a little bit light in the pants, so you have to add more of it. And if you have it like a naturally aspirated engine that you're worried about the volume of the fuel because you're taking away from the amount of air that's allowed in the cylinder, because the fuel does take up room in the port as it enters, you run a gasoline that is designed for high output engines, naturally aspirated engines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's
a lot to that I don't understand, and I couldn't really hold a conversation well enough, I feel, to grasp all of that.
You once you have the fuel capacity for it, you just run it at say 6.60 lambda, and you don't overtime the engine because it will be more tolerant of timing, but you'll pound the thing apart. Like the analogy I tell people is like, if I pick up a bat and I start hitting you with it, you're going to be crying. But if I put some wet socks in your mouth and beat you with a bat, I don't have to listen to you cry. And the fuel volume in the cylinder muffles the cries. So you get just these dead blows when you're overtimed and you're over rich and it's just dead blowing the parts. That's how you flatten out rod bearings and break crankshafts and split cylinders and bend piston pins and all that stuff, is when it's rich but too much timing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen quite a lot of people that trying to rip the pin out of the piston.
It normally rips out after it's bent. You bend it with compression. You rip it out with speed. Not compression, but combustion, sorry. Unregulated combustion. Once the pin is bent, it's probably going to come out in pieces.
Yeah.
But, pins, like if I'm building an engine for you and I say, hey, man, I got to put you in a set of $900 piston pins. What? $900 piston pins? But yeah, you're not going to bend them. When you wear this engine out, we'll put these pins in the next engine. Mm-hmm. Well, most people won't do that. They'll just buy a surface hardened, 9310 or whatever pin, and on a 6-cylinder you get 12, 13, 1400 horsepower, it's fine. But if you make a mistake, it's not fine. And then if you run it after you've made the mistake, the piston pin is going to ejecto out of the piston, and now the whole thing's wasted. So the $900 may not have been that bad.
Yeah. Sorry, that mosquito's got you. It's got your number pretty good. Yeah. I don't know how this room gets mosquitoes. It's just kind of one of those mysteries of Florida where
We live in a swamp.
yeah, kind of just adds up. Well, let's wrap this up. I've had you
Wrap it up.
Yeah, I've had you long for this deal. I appreciate you coming on. This was really fun. I hope to eventually get to do it again because this was very eye-opening. I don't think we've even touched on even the surface level of things.
Nah, there's a lot always going on, man. I've had a pretty good time with my career, and I look forward to continuing to play with cars.
That's what I look forward to seeing more of is you playing with cars and kind of exploring like the more oddball and like more unique things because I feel like you have that.
Dude, the other day I drove a
ability?
1913 Buick. Wow. Race car. I mean, my buddy Frank let me drive it.
Over 100 years old.
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Just the fact that somebody would race something that old.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff to do. I got my eyes on this little Cosworth 4-cylinder, and to take it apart and see what see what that's like, and that's a cutting air, mid 70s badass 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
It's a pretty neat engine.
Well, Cosworth has always been ahead of the curve, and they've been building Formula One engines forever, and like they're
OEM stuff.
They're not exactly a slouch on that stuff.
No.
I was gonna say I have 4 seats, so maybe one time we'll have like a group setting.
You need to get Job down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Job. Maybe me, Job, and Brett, and Jim. It may just turn into a party though.
That's why I got 4 microphones is because I would like to have like parties like that, and I think the things that could come out and the knowledge that could be documented would be pretty next level that I haven't seen documented anywhere. So,
well, plus we're all in the same little circle. We're friends sharing cars.
yeah.
So it's you get groups of guys that know each other. It'll be a pretty good time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of new stuff coming down the pipeline that people haven't heard about yet.
Yeah.
That as it comes out, I'm excited to be able to talk about more.
I know, man. I've got some stuff that and I hate to say it, but like I got some stuff that it could really be cool for me and really be cool for people getting into this. Mm-hmm. And really be cool for guys like you that try to crash their car on coolant, just like stuff.
Yeah, driving over water on a drag strip's not recommended.
Oh man, I've done it a couple times now, maybe 3 times now. The second time is a lot easier, I can tell you that. So you'll be more prepared the second time. Did you hit the wall?
Yeah, twice. It hit the wall in the nose and kind of slid, and then did like a little kick to the side.
Would you spend $400 to have avoided that problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Well, I got a fire system in my car, so I've already like spent the money to try to avoid the car burning down. So like I feel like I've I've tried a little bit here, but I'll definitely spend more money to keep it from doing that. But yeah, so however people can find you, I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah. So my new place is RS Garage. My Instagram is just my name. The website, I'm going to Bonneville for a week, and I didn't want to talk about my new stuff and then get an influx of inquiry and not be able to answer the inquiry. So I was, I was going to time, an outro, because like some people have called and asked me like, what's going on? I'm like, man, it's just change. It's just change. Mm-hmm. That road ended, and now there's a new road. But it's all good. I like having the car thing. To me, is enough. Like I want to put that car together with a stick and have some fun, and kind of like get back to the fun that it used to be for me before the numbers were ruling the show.
I'm really excited to see that. I'd like to push people towards like maybe a YouTube channel as well. Maybe you can text me that over.
I will.
I'll put it in
I'll
the
send that
description.
to you. We
Just
have
something to drive a little bit of like
Yeah.
traffic. And of course, this is an open invite. If you have something new that comes out, if you have something new that you're working on that you want to talk about,
right on.
the seat's always open. I mean,
Cool.
I plan to make 1,000 episodes of this and more. So it's like.
Yeah. Well,
Repeats are always happy for me, and I'm sure people will want that.
right on.
So thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out Jay and whatever is in the description at the time, but I'm sure there'll be some cool stuff. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
But guys, we'll see you next time.
Take it easy.